injured because Bakhtiari got his huge deal and then didn't really play again. And Jair Alexander got his huge deal, and he's played like 30 of 51 possible games since he got his big contract. You sign a long-term deal in Green Bay, it's kind of the Madden curse. So we'll see, Saquon Barkley, cover of Madden. I mean, Mahomes broke the curse, so there isn't a Madden curse. Mahomes was MVP and Super Bowl champion when he was on the cover of Madden.
Because, of course, it was Mahomes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is there's a Madden curse unless you're one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever lived. If you're not one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever lived, don't don the cover of Madden. That's what I would say.
Was Brady ever on the cover of Madden?
I mean, probably, yes.
I'd assume
a couple
so,
times.
right?
Yeah.
Do we know what year and
with Mahomes?
It was with Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. I guess, you're right.
Yeah. And then Gronk was on the cover in the year that he got injured.
Okay.
So there have been a number of New England, but was Moss one of them?
Peyton Hillis.
Peyton Hillis, absolutely. That was a big one. It all started with Garrison Hurst and that ankle that went the wrong way. Those things happen, though. 913-912-4810. Let's talk Royals here. They get set for the Yankees and the A's. I wrote down New York and A's because Sacramento, Oakland, they're the A's. New York's coming into town for 3, and then the A's are coming into town. New York and Sacramento.
Sacktown,
that created all the bass sound. So a 6-game homestand for the Royals this week, and what feels like just an incredibly disappointing road trip that felt like it could have been the building of quote-unquote momentum. They go 17-4, catapulted by that victory against Tariq Skubal to avoid the sweep to the Tigers. And then coming off of that game, they go 16-4 over their next 20, so 17-4 overall. They struggled to that point, and then it felt like, you lose on Sunday 1-0 to the Tigers. After winning on Saturday, the rubber match didn't work out. Bubic was brilliant, but, what are you going to do? Then you head to St. Louis, Jack Caglione, feeling like a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement. The Royals are hitting the ball. They're scoring runs. They give away a game on Thursday morning/afternoon in the first day of the doubleheader. I guess it was afternoon. It started afternoon. So they give that game away, it felt like. And then heading to Chicago, you're like, man, if it wasn't for that Thursday afternoon 3-0 lead that was eventually blown, this team could have gone 6-0 and 7-1 in their last, 8 games. 9-2 in their last 11. Like, you'd feel like they're turning things around, and 6 of those with Jack Caglione. All right, you're feeling great about that. And then Friday night happens, and just an embarrassing, disastrous, what other terms to describe that 8th inning that was just abysmal. Saturday continued the offensive anemic ineptitude, inability to score runs, get somebody in that's in scoring position. Hey, they're hitting home runs, which is good. We've lamented the fact that the Royals can't hit home runs. Now can we lament the fact that all they're doing is hitting solo shots? A couple of 2-run shots in there too, but you get the point. Some solo home runs. And then yesterday, finding a way to win, eventually runners in scoring position, having some base knocks, Bobby doing Bobby things, the 2-run home run, another Superman diving effort there in the 9th inning, which may have saved the game, quite frankly. And they survived that one because a major league pitcher, now whether he's a major league pitcher or not, but a major league pitcher, a man who was earning a major league paycheck for that day, couldn't get an out with a 5-run lead and was walking guys and just get me over fastballs because I can't place it. 3-2 fastball that is at the eyes of the batter. I have no problem with Q going to that guy at that point. You got a 5-run lead. It's the White Sox. Go get 3 outs. Leadoff walk. What in the bleep are you doing, dude? A leadoff walk with a 5-run lead. Make them earn it. He hit a double. You know what you didn't do? Walk them. So then Estevez comes in and saves the day. Literally and figuratively. Well, saves the game. He didn't save the day, but the day game he saved. So they get that done. They survive. They avoid a sweep. Salvage a game from the White Sox, who, by the way, since the Royals swept them, are now 12-16. They're not making the playoffs, but they're also not the White Sox of last year.
No.
But doesn't make an excuse to lose the series to the White Sox. Just because they're 12-16 and they split with the Tigers doesn't mean that you go and lose the series to the White Sox. It's inexcusable for this team that's trying to make the playoffs. It's one thing for the Tigers to go, man, the White Sox got us a couple of games. That's going to happen with a team that's going to win. 12-16 is like what? 67, 68 wins over the course of the season if you go 12-16, something like that. Anywhere from 65 to 70 off the top of my head is probably what you would end up being going 12-16. That team's going to win a couple every once in a while. If you're the Tigers, you're the best team in baseball. We saw the Royals lose 100 games and yet have a couple of wins against really good teams. You're like, wow, how'd that happen? They won that series against that team? That's really shocking. But the Tigers, the difference with them and the Royals is that they're like, oh man, we split with the White Sox. We still have that 7-game lead in the American League Central. That splitting with the White Sox isn't ideal, but it doesn't feel crushing. Where the Royals are chasing the Tigers, and the Tigers are losing games to the Cubs and not playing as great a baseball, and the Minnesota Twins are losing, and the Guardians are losing, and you're also losing to the White Sox. That can't happen for a team that is chasing 3 teams ahead of them in the division, and now 3 teams ahead of them in the last wild card spot. They're a game and a half out of the last wild card spot. And if they found a way to win Thursday and Friday, they would have woke up Saturday morning. This was before they ended up losing Saturday, but they would have woke up Saturday morning 6.5 out of the Tigers and a game up on the number 1 wild card spot. They would have been in second place in the division and a half game up on the first wild card spot. Instead, what happened with Thursday and Friday, blowing those games, Thursday afternoon and Friday, and then losing Saturday, they're a full game and a half out and 3 teams behind just getting into that final wild card spot right now. It's one thing to be a game. I would rather be 3 games out and have only 1 team to catch than a game and a half out when you've got 3 teams ahead of you to then get to that final wild card spot, because all of those teams you got to catch by being a game and a half out. Odds are one of them will play just as good a baseball as you the rest of the way. You can't give away games against the White Sox, against bad teams. A's coming to town. You can't give away games. It is not reasonable to expect a sweep, but it is not unreasonable to expect you winning the series against that bad team.
100%. And the frustration is there. It was frustrating in St. Louis, that day game, blowing that. Nice bounce back, obviously. We get to that game. I was there. It was nice seeing Jack in person. That was pretty fun, even though we were jacked up way high in the... you
guys were jacked up at the top of the stadium.
Very,
good for you.
very, very far away.
Bet you could have found some good seats on Thursday afternoon.
Yes, but we were golfing then, and
yeah,
I
makes
was too busy winning. I was trying to take a picture of Cags, and it looks like trying to find Bigfoot, so now I feel like I'm a Bigfoot finder.
Are you calling him Casquatch?
Well, because Cag
Squatch?
In fairness, it's just so blurry. It looks like any picture of a Bigfoot. You could tell me it was any player, and I would have believed you.
Well, Sterling wants to go with Cag Squatch. I'm going with Lumberjack.
No,
That's
you're not stealing what I stole from you.
No. Yeah, that's the way to say it.
Okay, you're not stealing what I stole from you.
I appreciate that.
Jason.
Go ahead. Continue on that
Credit
giveaway.
to me.
Giveaway Thursday and then the weekend assessment and takeaway from that.
So that was
credit to you for stealing from me.
Right. But of course, we get to the game because we got there a little late, and we after the explosion of offense, we get there. We saw 0 runs scored from then on, so I was the cooler, but I was there at least to see a win. It was nice seeing Cags, of course, against the White Sox get 4 hits because he was looking overmatched for a while. There was a little bit of a stretch there where I was I was thinking, all right, he's swinging a lot at early pitches. He's not walking. I'm not saying send him down, but
no,
not that.
Hard.
But
I know that hitting the ball hard can get annoying after a few days saying that, because eventually hitting the ball hard, it needs to find grass out there.
But there's a little bit of he does look a little overmatched at times. And that 4 for 4, I think, really freed him up. That last one where it looked like the pitcher was terrified for his life, that single up the middle, you just see what the ball does off his bat.
Well, I don't want to be standing there 60 feet, or I guess you're less than that because you've already finished your delivery. So 55 feet with 113 coming back at you. I wouldn't want to be standing there. That's just me, though. That's the only reason I'm not pitching in Major League Baseball right now, is because I don't want that to happen.
Bobby's starting to get the power swing back a little bit now, which is nice to see. Vinny's now up to 280.
Vinny
is scorching. Salvador is still struggling. India has been a little better.
Oh, he's been better.
I'll give Indy some credit. He's been a little better. Michael's continuously doing Michael things so far. It's almost just ho-hum at this point. I feel like we're almost not talking about Michael enough. We talked about him so much to start the year that it's become an afterthought. But I was pleased to see Lorenzen with a bounce-back game. Lorenzen needed a bounce-back game because that was, 3-4 starts in a row that were really...
It was rough.
Yeah, I mean, and not just rough.
I think he was
unplayable.
Pitching, it felt like he was pitching for the spot in the rotation. And he gave up the home run. Now, I'm not saying that he's earned a spot in the rotation, but I bet you Michael Lorenzen probably felt like when he towed the rubber yesterday, went to the bump, went to the mound, went to go shove. I bet he walked out there in his mind saying, I better figure this thing out or I'm going to be pitching in the bullpen.
Yes.
And he after the home run, it's the only hit he gave up and then, settled in quite nicely after that.
Yeah. So overall, it's very disappointing, but at least there's some signs of optimism. I don't want it to be a glass half full guy as the Royals are 34 and 32 in what has been, again, a fairly disappointing stretch. But it was nice seeing Lorenzen bounce back. I like that 4-hit game from Keggs, obviously. But again, it just felt like that maybe gives him his confidence back. And then with Bobby Witt Jr. starting to hit more home runs, with India getting on base more now, at least getting more hits, you could see this offense starting to produce more in line with what we thought they were going to do. Not top of the line, but more in that 10 to 15 range of Major League Baseball.
They are keeping their head above water really ever since that 17-4 stretch, but they're not taking advantage of certain series that they need to. I mean, the Chicago series, even though they've played better baseball of late, they had Kyle Teal making his debut. They have Jerry Reisendorf selling the team, so there was more juice going into that series. The reality is, when you look back, you can't have series like that against teams that have 22 wins. You need to go out there and, at bare minimum, take 2 of 3 every time out and keep stacking those wins. Like looking to this weekend against the Athletics, you got to win 2 of 3, especially because you're not anticipating sweeping New York, as great as that would be. You want to take 2 of 3 in every series, but the reason they're in 4th place and 8.5 back and a game and a half out of a wild card spot is that some of those teams of the last month or so, like Toronto, like Tampa Bay, like Minnesota, they've taken advantage of series like that, and the Royals haven't. The good news is they haven't buried themselves, and I don't envision them burying themselves because they're getting healthier now. They have Cole Reagan's back, though he's not pitching the way we all anticipate that he can. Seth Lugo is now back in the rotation. Lucas Ursig can come back on Wednesday. He had a rehab outing the other night and looked good. Velocity was back up. And maybe that's what I look to as well with this road trip. The 2 losses they had that really stand out was game 1 of that doubleheader against St. Louis and then Friday night. In both of those games, they had to turn to somebody else in a spot that Lucas Ursig pitches in. When things were spiraling out of control for John Schreiber, that's probably a spot they could either go to Lucas Ursig, and instead they go to Taylor Clark, who gives up the 2-run home run. On Friday night, Jonathan Bowen gets the big strikeout, and because Lucas Ursig's not available, he goes back out for the 8th inning, and everybody implodes. It wasn't just him. He wasn't great, but there was horrible defense from Michael Garcia, horrible, a pickoff move from Taylor Clark. Yeah. They completely collapsed. And in those moments, that's where I go to, man, if they just had their automatic clean inning guy where it's still tied, we need to find a way to win this one late or in extras, that's who we're going to. And as deep as this bullpen has been, they're not Lucas Ursig. Jonathan Bowen's not. He's now back in Omaha. You're not going to use Trevor Richards in a close game, but maybe even yesterday when things were starting to get a little uncomfortable, they don't have to use Estevez. They can go to Lucas Ursig because he is their quote-unquote fireman.
Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. I do want to talk about the loss on Thursday, the loss on Friday. Much debated, much discussed, certainly on the X. The pulling of Cameron, the bunting of Garcia on Friday. We'll talk about the first week of Jack Caglione, Lugo and Reagan's, what we've seen from them this year, and certainly as of late, what the bullpen's going to look like, and the Royals deciding to skip a spot through the rotation for Chris Bubich, moving him back to save some of the innings on his arm since he's already passed up what he threw last year. Is that the way for them to keep Lorenzen and Noah Cameron in the rotation, is to periodically pick players to skip along the way that, okay, now this is your turn, Waka, to skip a spot through the rotation. Okay, Lorenzen or Cameron, it's now your turn to skip a spot through the rotation. like they did with Chris Bubich. But when you do that, it means you carry one less bullpen arm. Maybe it's easier to do that when Urseg comes back. But with Urseg out, they've been carrying one less bullpen arm. Not that bullpen arm would have been any better than what we saw from this Royals team. So we'll talk about all of those things. We continue rolling along. More Zone right after this. about some decisions that were made on Thursday and Friday. On Friday, I talked in the first hour about the decision to pull Noah Cameron. And it seems like I am in the minority in both of these decisions, so perfectly fine doing that.
Where were you at, by the way? Because I was gone.
I was here.
Yeah, I was.
Oh.
I was not.
Okay.
What was your take here?
My take was I was annoyed that he pulled Noah Cameron, and I know people are like, well, it's results oriented. I'm like, well, I'm driving back from the remote, and he pulls, so I can't tweet it because I wanted to tweet it and go. My exact thoughts are when I was getting ready to tweet it was, or would be, Noah Cameron has 82 pitches. He's allowed 4 base runners all game. The tough inning was the second when he walked 2. So he's had 1 base runner since then. It's the first game of a doubleheader, and Cole Reagans has not proved to you this year that he can go past 5. You can't get behind in your bullpen. You don't have an off day tomorrow. So this is the point to where you can utilize your horse, if you want to call him that, the way that he had been pitching. You don't have Urseg or Harvey, so you have to maximize the good arms that you have, and when a guy is out there dealing, leave him be. And I also disagreed with it was the 3rd time through the order, and it was the heart of the order. Well, then my response would be, don't pitch the 6th, because you know what the 6th inning was? The 3rd time through the order for 1, 2, 3. He faced 1, 2, 3 the 3rd time through the order in the 6th inning. Well, yeah, but he only had like 70 pitches. Okay, so now pitch count matters. It's not just the 3rd time through the order. So pick one. If it's the 3rd time through the order, don't let him pitch the 6th. Well, the bullpen, you don't have Urseg or Harvey. Okay, so you don't have Urseg or Harvey, then why are you taking him out after 6? On a game 1 of a doubleheader with Cole Reagans, who hasn't proved to go deep. And shocker, what happened with Cole Reagans?
Yeah.
He didn't go deep yet again, and your bullpen at that point, Quatraro was not helped out by Schreiber and Lynch in the first game of the doubleheader, and Quatraro was bailed out by Zerpa and Cruz in the second game of the doubleheader because that's who we had to go with. And those guys went out there and performed.
Zerpa looked good.
Yeah, and Cruz looked as good as he's looked all year. And
both those guys.
Good God,
very
man.
Impressive.
When Cruz is on, and that's one of the things I pointed out, is when Cruz is on, I mean, you had guys taking strikes and swinging at things outside of the zone. Like, that's when you know you're on, is guys are guessing, they're guessing wrong, and then they're not hitting the stuff. So that was good. But Thursday, it was the beginning of a stretch where you had to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in 4 days. And you've got a guy that's thrown 82 pitches and has given up 4 base runners all game. So, yeah, I completely disagreed with that. And that's what set a lot of this stuff in motion. Now, I felt like I was in the minority on that because a lot of people are like, I'm fine with it. I was totally cool with it. I was not. That's fine. It's okay to disagree. That's the great thing about baseball, is that the right move may not work and the wrong move may work. You never really know what takes place with that until we see the results. But process over results, as I tell our little leaguers all the time, that you give me 10 really good, technically sound swings on a tee, I'll take that over 100 just random swings. You can swing 100 different times. You are not getting more work in than those 10 specific swings done correctly. Process over results. So I understand the process from Matt Quatraro on Thursday. I disagreed with it. On Friday, oh man, I got roasted. I got torn to shreds on Friday. And I understand it. I get it. Because I tweeted out after the bunt, I said, I was actually fine with the bunt. Terrible execution. Jonathan India with a little league slide. Although little leaguers, I think, slide into the base, not right foot sliding past the base for your left foot that's bent to then touch the base. That was an absurd slide. It's dumb. There's a play at the base and you slide past it. Like, I'm sorry. One thing I found out about Jonathan India is that he is a good hitter. I don't know how much of a ball player he is. That might be the biggest insult to a baseball player. I'm sorry, but defensively, base running, sliding to third, those are just sort of instinctual things that ball players would know. But regardless,
great hair, though.
Beautiful hair. Oh, my God, it's awesome. So I said, I'm fine with the bunt. Now, I got destroyed. And I'm not going to change my view on it because that's how I felt at the time. which is odd because I am almost universally don't bunt guy. I am almost all, and so I even said that. I said, look, it's odd that I find myself feeling this way, but I'm not going to lie about how I feel about this situation. I feel like pulling Noah Cameron was a worse decision than bunting Maikel Garcia. And I understand the thought process. Garcia is your number 3 hitter. You don't bunt your number 3 hitter. He's one of your better hitters. Okay, so you don't take the bat out of his hands. I get all of that. I totally understand that. But it's 2-2, and for 7 innings, the Royals couldn't get anything going. They couldn't rack up hits collectively. They had a couple of solo home runs. So for 7 innings, you had a chance to have a big inning, and you couldn't come through. It's now the 8th, and go and try to get a run.
Yeah.
Garcia bounced into a double play on Thursday in the exact same situation. First and second, nobody out, hit into a double play. He might have thought about that himself and said, I ain't going to hit into a double play. I'm bunting these guys over. Now there's here's what happened in the bottom of the 8th. Hey, nice call, Jason. I guess playing 3-2 wouldn't have mattered. Okay, so if we want to play that game, if he gets the bunt down, the infield's in, and Vinny Pasquantino's 105, mile an hour scorcher is not fielded by the second baseman who's in, it's now a 2-run single, and we're not just playing for 1 run, right? You're not just looking at it and going, well, you're going to get a sacrifice fly. Plus, Vinny is the sac fly king.
Yes.
Okay, so the way I viewed it was, this offense has been struggling. We've seen it all season long. They have had opportunities to get runs, and they don't come through. It's 2-2, the 8th inning. Get a freaking win and get out of there. Get a run, get a win, and leave on Friday and set up Waka for Saturday and go open up the bats then. But right now, it's 2-2. Just find a way to get a win. I heard you always want to play for a 3-2 win against the White Sox. Does winning 5-2 give you more of a win? Do you get like a 1.1 win? I'll tell you this, I bet people would settle for a 3-2 win on Friday and Saturday now against the White Sox. You absolutely would. So I got torched. I understand it. People even sent me Randy's tweet. Randy said it was probably the worst decision of the season for Q to bunt Maikel Garcia. I disagree. I love Randy. And he is in like the 95 percentile of majority of the view there. I think the Noah Cameron was a worse decision than Maikel Garcia, because you were up 3-0, you had the win, and you handed it over to a bullpen. You didn't know what was going to happen later on that day. A bullpen without Urseg or Harvey. On Friday, bunting Maikel Garcia, it's a tie game. You're trying to take a lead in the 8th inning. So I would rather him keep Noah Cameron in the game than swing away with Maikel Garcia in that situation. But I understand the thought process of both. I don't think it's the extremes of leaving Noah Cameron in is the best decision, the only decision, and if you disagree, you're dumb. Taking Noah Cameron out means Quatrero should be fired. Bunting Maikel Garcia is the dumbest thing I've ever seen a manager do, and Q should be fired. Bunting Garcia is the only situation that you should do there because you've got to get runs. There are so many different nuances to that. When he was up 2-0, I was fine with changing the strategy. When he was up 2-0, I'm like, okay, swing away now.
Sure.
Now swing away. The guy has walked into you. Bobby got on. He hasn't placed in either of his pitches on 2-0, or the first 2. You're up 2-0. He's going to try to groove one probably to take the out. Now swing away. He bunted. That's the part that I probably disagree with and I would have changed. I was torched on Friday night, which was fine. And it's indefensible doing that. Well, I understand the thought process behind it. And this offense, by the way, the next day, how many big innings did they have on Saturday? 0. They scored 1 run. They scored 1 run on Saturday. The offense has struggled for so long. It is surprising to me to have people complain about this team not coming through situationally and then trying to create a situation, but it's the wrong spot in the lineup to do it, and you don't take the bat out of Garcia's hands. And look how bad that bunt was. Okay, the bunt was bad and the slide was bad. The execution was terrible. But if he bunts him over and Vinny comes through and they're up 4-2, anybody bitching about Maikel Garcia bunting? It might be, I disagreed, but it came through and they won the game, blah, blah, blah.
I was also torched on that night, too, for a different reason, because the bourbon was flowing. I actually don't have a massive...
I like that. I had no bourbon and was getting torched.
I don't have a massive disagreement with the Noah Cameron one.
Disagreement with Q or disagreement with me?
With Q. I was okay.
You're wrong. You're stupid. You're wrong. And I don't trust anything you'll ever say again if you think that.
So
anyway, go ahead.
He's pitched so well, and I get the thought process of, well, eventually, if he keeps doing this, are you going to let him go 7, 8, 9? Are you going to let him do that? There were 3 righties coming up in the lineup.
Yep.
And, you had Schreiber, who is very hard for righties to pick up traditionally speaking because of the sinker slider combo and how the arm angle.
Right.
You trust your veteran in that instance. I really didn't have a big issue because I blame Schreiber more than Q. At some point, you got to perform, and Schreiber didn't perform because it was lined up for 3 righties, and then you would have had Burleson the lefty, which maybe they would have. I guess they did with Victor Scott. I guess technically, but
Lynch comes in and still has his control problems. That's part of the decision.
That's part of the
to
decision.
Take out
Which
Cameron is knowing that Lynch has had control problems, and Zerpa's not back in the circle of trust yet, although he might be earning his way back.
We talked about that when you were sick. We were talking about how Daniel Lynch, what he's done. Get ready for some regression because this is not sustainable with the walk rate, strikeout rate, the
strand percentage.
It's just unsustainable. I get that. I guess I trusted Schreiber, the veteran, in the 7th inning with all the injuries. He might be your second best reliever, maybe
right now.
Of who you trust. So I didn't have a huge issue with it. The results obviously speak for themselves. And looking back, especially with it being a doubleheader, if you said, "Hey, Noah Cameron, just keep going until you get into trouble because we have another game. We got to backfill."
Yeah, I would have had him throw one more inning.
Yeah,
and if he got in trouble, then he got in trouble, and we've seen that happen before. There was a reason he's gone 6 1/3 or 6 and whatever. 6+ is because a couple of guys have got on. I acknowledge that. Maybe that's what Q was trying to guard against. Schreiber takes the majority of the blame there.
I think it's like 95-5 for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
For me, it's
then at that point it's got to be the same for Michael Garcia, then, right? Because if we're saying the decision for Q doesn't matter, it's on the player to come through, then the decision for Q or for Q to defend Garcia post game, because that might have been Garcia on his own who bounced it into a double play the day before and might have said, "Not risking it. We're getting a run here," and Q then talks to the media and says, "No, it was a spot. We wanted to move the runners over," and could have been defending Michael Garcia.
True.
Then that's on the player as well, then not on Q for if he were to call that play.
You got to get that down. I mean, end of the day, you have to get that bunt down. That you have to have a good bunt. India has to have a good slide.
2-0 grouped pitch. You can't bunt it back to the pitcher.
I hate the 2-0 because you have a chance to really
at
least see if it's a strike or a ball. If it's ball 3, what are we doing here?
Or try to go to the right side to at least move India.
Yeah, Michael's been. I don't hate trying to win 3-2 in that situation because the bats have been struggling. And if you're going to trust the bullpen, you're going to trust the bullpen. You trust them in the Cardinals game, and it didn't work. But if you're going to keep trusting them, then you should trust them to let you win a game 3-2 against the White Sox. So I have a bigger issue with maybe the Michael Garcia bunt, but I really don't have a massive issue either way. I think Q's gotten a bad rap for the most part this year. I think Q's done a pretty darn fine job. It's funny, he was, second place and manager of the year last year, and everyone was bummed that he didn't win, and now all of a sudden they think he's a horrendous manager. It's like, where's the consistency, y'all? What are we doing here?
Jack, where do you fall in line with those two?
Well, I'll say this to start things off. It doesn't matter who the manager of any baseball team is. This will go on for the end of time. Fans will always feel that when a bullpen move doesn't work out, may not be the reliever, it's on the manager. I mean, Yosted was a term for years in Kansas City because he didn't make the right moves, and he had one of the best bullpens you could ever ask for as a manager. So it's always the hindsight 2020 look. Now, going for the Noah Cameron thing, I likened it almost to when Michael Lorenzen stayed in too long against Houston. And Michael Lorenzen was coming off 7 shutout against Boston. He was pitching damn well against Houston. It was a 1-run game. The bullpen was a bit taxed because of what had happened in game 1 of that series, which was that Waka started getting tagged. Then they went to Steven Cruz, who wasn't on, and then everybody started to unravel. You had to use Ursa and Estevez to get out of that. So you try to get the extra inning out of Lorenzen. Didn't work out. What was the talk after that game? It was, how in the world do you leave Michael Lorenzen in that spot? Well, the pitch count was low. They felt they could trust him third time through. He got burned by a very lucky double that was hit maybe 70 miles an hour and dropped in because they were shifted. But that was a different game. With Noah Cameron, I absolutely see the side of it because it didn't work out. And that's, as a manager, what you are criticized on. Yeah. If it works out, we don't talk about it, right? How many people on game 2 of the doubleheader talked about leaving Serpa in for a third inning and it worked out? We don't bring it up because it worked out. How many people talk about Steven Cruz staying in a second inning? We don't talk about it because it worked out.
Bolin staying in for a second inning on Friday didn't work out.
We talk about it. Well, how the hell can you leave Jonathan Bolin in that spot? Well, it's because they didn't have another guy they wanted to go to. They played the matchups there. And with Noah Cameron, could he have gotten out of it? Absolutely. In my opinion, the thought process was we don't want Noah Cameron, whose season high of pitches thrown was 92, so he gets done with that inning in 10 pitches. That also came the previous start. They went, we don't want him to give up 2 base runners to start, and now here comes John Schreiber facing the tying run at the plate when maybe we give Schreiber a clean inning against 3 righties, the middle of the order. To me, that's on Schreiber. We got to put some blame on Schreiber for not executing. Daniel Lynch, the next inning, pop-up versus battery faces. What does he do 2-0? He drills a left-handed hitter. Yeah. I'm sorry, as great as he's been, that's high school stuff. Hitting the same side, you're facing a left-handed hitter, facing a left-handed pitcher, and you hit him. You don't do that. That's where you're supposed to have the advantage there. And so the bullpen, blew up there, but also the manager's always going to get criticism, and I'm fine with that. That is a part of the job here. And then as for laying down the bunt, to me, I believe that's Q protecting his players. If you asked a manager when they're done managing, honestly, how many guys had the green light in situations? Bobby Witt Jr., anytime he steals a base. He's got the green light. They're not giving him the sign to go steal. No, you've got the speed, steal the base. Maikel Garcia, same thing. At the plate, the amount of guys in that lineup that have the green light to bunt is astronomical. And that's just baseball. Maikel Garcia is in his 3rd year in the big leagues now. No, actually 4th because he debuted in 2022. He's been one of their best hitters. If he wants to lay the bunt down there, all right, you better get it down. Like if we're going to burn your bat in the lineup here, you better get that bunt down and make sure India gets the 3rd. Why? Because your hottest hitter is right behind him. Mm-hmm. And then you can have the advantage. Maybe Chicago has to go to the bullpen there, but guess what? Salvi's up after him. So if you go to a lefty against Vinny, well, then you got to have the lefty in to face Salvador Perez, and then maybe you walk him to get to Jack Caglione. So all of these things, they are a dice roll, and you got to get it done. But to me, it's not always 100% the manager. These are big leaguers. These are big boys out here that got to get their job done. And if Garcia had the green light, you got to get it down. If you're going to burn your at-bat, get it down. If it came from Q, you got to answer for it, which he did. He took blame and said, we wanted to get the bunt down to set up Vinny Pasquantino. He didn't get it down. If you hate the decision, 50% goes to the manager, 50% goes to the player in that spot.
And I can understand, like, if you hate the bunt and you're looking at it and saying, okay, so Maikel Garcia's got the green light to bunt anytime you want. Well, if you're Q, if you believe in your heart that it's the wrong decision to bunt in that situation, then tell him don't bunt. Then make sure the sign is to, once he squares around on 1-0 to bunt, you're like, oh, no. Hey, ixnay on the hunt bay, do not do the, here's whatever sign, I don't know, nose, cap, chest, do not bunt
just
at
shaking
all.
your head, no, this is the bunt sign, you're just doing all this stuff.
Maikel,
no.
Don't bunt here. I mean, I can understand that because I saw that too. Like, okay, well, if he's sticking up for his player and it's Maikel Garcia's decision, well, then what's the point of Q even being a manager if you disagreed with that and you're just like, well, I'll let them do whatever they want. Like, no, I'll let them do whatever they want. I bet Noah Cameron wanted to stay in for another inning there. You didn't let him do whatever he wanted. So I totally understand that. And again, I almost always, this is what I tweeted out, like, I get it. It's odd. Believe me, it's odd that I'm arguing from this perspective because I'm almost always the don't bunt guy. And especially with your number 3 hitter. What are you doing? Because Garcia is one of your hottest hitters. But it wasn't the 2nd inning. It wasn't the 3rd inning, the 4th inning, the 5th inning, the 6th inning, the 7th inning. It was the 8th inning, and you scored 2 runs at that point. And your hottest hitter is Vinny Pasquantino. He is one of the hottest hitters in baseball. I mean, in his last 36 games, going back to the last day of May, he is batting .360. He's getting on base over 400. He's slugging .531 in his last 36 games. He would be pacing for 31 home runs and over 100 RBIs. If he did this over 162, it's over 36 games. But it's also not 5 games. All right, it's a full month. He's the hottest hitter on your team. And he was an RBI machine. He was the sac fly king last year. And I understand the thought process from Maikel Garcia. I don't think Q should be fired because of, even if he did give the bunt sign to Maikel Garcia, or taking Noah Cameron out of the game. I feel like taking Noah Cameron out of the game is essentially what started the snowball to where many people who disagreed with the Maikel Garcia thing, which I thought was odd that it was like, well, yeah, you can't let Maikel Garcia bunt because you're trying to play for 3-2 when your bullpen is taxed. My response is, oh, really? Why is the bullpen taxed? Because of what would be the fruit of the poisonous tree or the original sin or whatever we want to call it. It was taking Noah Cameron out the first day of a doubleheader when you've got 5 games in 4 days. And this guy's thrown 82 pitches. Now, if he threw 92, get him out. I don't want the guy, burned. Like I do think there's an element of when you get to a degree of you've put too much stress on him. From the pitches he threw the previous start, he's at 92. 4, 5, 6 is coming up, righties. All right, seems like a decent spot to get him out. But he was at 82. And he had already faced those guys before. And if it's really the third time through the order, then he shouldn't have been allowed to face 1, 2, 3 the third time through the order. But he was allowed to face number 1, number 2, What's a more difficult inning, facing 1, 2, 3 or 4, 5, 6? Because I can tell you, if I look at the Royals lineup, I don't want to go up against 1, 2, 3. I'd rather face 4, 5, 6. Although 4 and 6 look a little bit different now, with the way the lineup is. 5 looks a little bit easier than it did historically in the past, because I'm just going to throw him every pitch down and away, and not have to worry about it, including when ball 4 is so far and away outside that would have loaded up the bases that you swing through it on a 3-2 pitch. And the worst part about that is that dude does not have a pitch that the ball starting low and away as a ball will work back to a strike. So as soon as that thing was a ball, it was going to stay a ball. Every single one of his pitches, there is not a pitch that dude throws that he's going to work the bottom left part of the strike zone against a righty that's going to be a ball to strike. He has a strike to ball in that area, but that's sort of scouting and being locked in. He does not have a ball to strike in that area. So once it's a ball, it's going to stay a ball. And instead swinging way over of a ball in the dirt. Like, that was one of the more brutal swings in that situation we've seen. But still, 1, 2, 3 or 4, 5, 6 for a lot of lineups. I'd probably say 1, 2, 3 is a more difficult, more disadvantageous position to be in than 4, 5, 6. Either way, neither of them worked out. They lost both games. So therefore, Q's an idiot both times. But the players also have to be responsible for that, because Q didn't call the 3-2 swing for Salvi in the dirt. Q didn't say, hey, Salvi, swing at this 3-2 pitch in the dirt instead of walking for bases loaded and 1 out for Jack.
Yeah.
No, swing at this. No. Now,
What about his spike
it was bases
ball?
loaded, nobody out, right?
Just spike it.
It was bases loaded, no, because it was second and third on the wild pitch, second and third, nobody out. Salvi strikeout, Jack ground out to the pitcher, Drew Waters strikeout. So it would have been bases loaded, nobody out for Jack Caglione. Now the ground out to the pitcher might have resulted in a 1, 2, 3 double play, but we don't know. We don't know what would have happened with that. But Q didn't call for the strikeout in that situation, right? He didn't call for Richards to go out there and not get an out. And if you want Estevez to come in a 7-2 game because, well, you got to get the win no matter what, well, then you're going to use the hell out of Estevez this year if you can only use certain pitchers. You've got a 26-man roster for a reason. You're up 7-2. It's okay to use a mop-up guy. That was Chris Stratton at some point, but they moved on from him. With Urseg hopefully coming back in the next couple of days, that'll be nice. I don't know when or if Hunter Harvey will ever pitch in a Royals uniform again.
If your name is Hunter and you are on the Royals,
yeah, don't sign.
Don't
trade
come
for or draft any more Hunters. Okay, the Hunters are done.
It's been bad.
Yeah, so we'll see. This is a big 3-game set. I tweeted out on Saturday morning that it felt like a big crossroads for the Royals in those 2 games. That you can't lose the series to the White Sox, and they did. I don't know what happens moving forward, but it doesn't get easier now against the Yankees. You got to find a way to get a couple of wins, have a winning homestand against the Yankees and the A's. We'll see when it's up happening.
Kind of hard to believe things are going to get better.
Offensively, certainly. More zone next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Jack Johnson heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Joel Penfield coming up at noon. One Royal Way podcast. 1 o'clock, Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 sports director, is our guest. Learn funniest best. We'll get into to that. Tex says the bunch should have been fine, but it says a bunch should have been fine because your pitching is your strength usually. Playing to get one should be enough. Tex says the team seems to be a magnet for double plays right now when they get 2 on, nobody out, or 1 on, nobody out. They are. Nick Lofton had a couple of double plays. The Garcia double play Thursday and then Saturday as well. So, it's. I will say this. On Thursday afternoon, it was in the second inning. First and second, nobody out, and Garcia hit into the double play on Thursday afternoon. The response was, how do you not find a way to move those guys over? Like, you got to at least get them over to second and third. That was in the second inning, Thursday. And on the Friday night, 8th inning, trying to get them over is the biggest disaster we've ever seen of a baseball strategy move. It is results-oriented. I mean, it's the Garcia hits into a double play. He sucks. You got to hit it to the right side at least, or find a way to do. Strike out then, as opposed to rolling over for a ground ball. Do something there. But I think it also shows the passion of people in this situation, and it also goes back to a little bit of the fear that I had this year of it not being an enjoyable season, because last year was such a fun season that came out of nowhere, and Reagan's and Lugo, look what they're doing. Bobby's fighting for the MVP, making the playoffs. And this year was like, well, they're picked to win the division by a lot of different people. Buster Olney was like, if the Royals are in the World Series, there's no surprise there whatsoever. And now they're 8.5 games back of the Tigers, while still being 2 games over 500. They're playing over 500 baseball right now, but it feels like such a disastrous season so far for this team because Reagan's isn't pitching the way that you would hope. Lugo isn't pitching the way that he was last year. Bubic has been amazing. The bullpen's kind of beaten up from where it was earlier this year, with Urseg now on the IL, and we'll see when he gets back, that it's, you either win or it sucks. And if you win 1-0, your offense is terrible, and the offense is the reason why you're not going to make the playoffs. And so you're not even happy if you get a 3-2 win against the White Sox on a Friday night because they suck and you should be beating them by more.
How good is this team? I mean, are expectations just too high? Because I agree with what you said about this year is going to be difficult because of expectations set. Maybe they were ahead of schedule. They're 9 runs under as far as run differential this year. They're not even above. Yes, there are a lot of injuries, but were expectations just too high heading into this season?
Tex says, if it was a sprint, it makes sense. I think he's talking about Noah Cameron. If it was a sprint, it makes sense. But the season's a marathon, dude. There was clearly a reason, but I believe your butt hurt. My butt hurt what? Because it's YOUR. My butt doesn't hurt. You didn't get the answer that you wanted. If it's a marathon, here's where your point is actually dumb. If it's a marathon, the marathon includes 5 games in 4 days, first game of a doubleheader with Cole Reagans going up next. You pulled Noah Cameron for the marathon, you jackass! Like that's my whole point about leaving Noah Cameron in, is because of the bullpen issue. If it was a sprint, then I would say take Noah Cameron out. If it's a sprint for one game.
Sure.
So if it's a marathon and you've already used Schreiber and Lynch and Estevez and those guys, then why didn't you keep Cole Reagans in for an extra inning? Huh?
Okay.
Why'd you take him out so quick? Why'd you take him out? You got to get him out of there, right? No. It's a marathon.
Well, it's two marathons.
If it's a marathon, then you need to protect your bullpen a little bit. Cole Reagans only went 3 innings. Have him go out there and throw 4. Well, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so it's the full season's worth that you got to go and look at. Oh, so it's a full season's worth, but we just talked about with Jack talking about that Michael Lorenzen against Houston had to go out there for an extra inning because the bullpen was taxed. So if the bullpen was taxed and he had to go out there for an extra inning, what's the going out there for the extra inning mean? It's because it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if we're talking about a bullpen that's taxed in terms of injuries with Urseg and Harvey being out and the first game of a doubleheader and Reagans that doesn't go deep into games and 5 games in 4 days before a day off, maybe that's where the marathon comes in and you get an extra inning out of Noah Cameron. But you went to your bullpen early. You started the turnstiles of pitchers. My whole point is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's why you leave Noah Cameron in for one more inning. He wasn't at 100 pitches,
no.
And I'm saying leaving him in again. He was at 82, and the stress for Noah Cameron was 4 base runners.
I do think you could make the argument that it's just 2 marathons. That it's not the same. It's not the same. It depends on how you want to view it. You're right. If it's a 1-game sample size, then yes.
Then I'm good with taking Noah Cameron out and going to the bullpen if it's a sprint.
If it's a World Series game,
yes.
That's exactly what you would do. I understand that argument.
Totally.
But I guess
I'm looking at the marathon of the fact that you need your bullpen for the 5 games in 4 days.
100%.
And you got an opportunity to not have to use your bullpen for the 7th inning.
But that's more of a
with
5K.
Schreiber.
Or more of the 13-1.
That's fine, but it's a marathon within the marathon.
Sure.
And look what happened on Friday. People were bitching about the bunt. You know why? Well, the bullpen is taxed.
Well, yes.
Why is the bullpen taxed? Because you sprinted on Thursday afternoon. You didn't marathon. If you marathoned on Thursday afternoon, the bullpen wouldn't have been taxed.
I guess
in theory.
Yeah, of course, in theory, because we all know what transpired.
Yeah.
Because
Schreiber could also come through and get 1, 2, 3, and
yes, because then you have 3 guys pitch, and you'd have Schreiber
Right.
in the 7th, Lynch in the 8th,
Right.
and Estevez in the 9th,
100%.
and we're not even talking about this. So what it comes down to is you got to perform, and also I kind of get the marathon for Noah Cameron as far as he's pitched so well. He hasn't, as Jack said, gone over 92 pitches. That was his max, was 92.
In the big leagues this year.
In the big leagues, he's gone 6 every single game, pretty much. I have no issues trying to say, hey, if he just gives us this every time out, let's pencil him down, lock it in. 1 run's the most he's going to give up in 6. We threw him out there for the 7th a couple times, and that's when the issues start to arise. It is a marathon for him versus bullpen.
Sure.
Again, we
there's
just slightly disagree, but I understand where you're coming from.
No, I totally understand it. But the fact of saying, like, well, the only reason you're not getting the answer you want and you're butthurt of it, like that's the jackassery of Twitter.
Well, you were sitting on rocks, Jason.
Well,
He
that's
saw
true.
that. You
That's
literally
true.
have a boulder.
That's true.
There's a boulder there. I don't know why you brought it in.
It's rather large, but I consider it carry on. You know, no, that's the point about the zero nuance to it, of spending the segment saying process over results. I understand the thought process of Q in that instance. I understand that. I disagree because you've got 2 games Thursday and then 3 over the weekend, 5 games in 4 days before your next off day. You can plan for the future. It's only 1 inning, so maybe the 1 inning doesn't make a difference, and Schreiber goes out there and has to clean it up anyway. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But it's kind of hard to complain about Garcia laying down a bunt because the bullpen is taxed and then be like, well, yeah, pulling Noah Cameron early in game 1 of a doubleheader with Cole Reagans. The problem is the marathon is all-encompassing. If Cole Reagans was throwing shutouts, I'm fine with it. Cole Reagans pitching the way that he is part of the decision. The doubleheader, the next 3 games after that, is part of the decision. Seth Lugo not pitching deep in the games and looking like Seth Lugo last year is part of the decision-making process. The whole thing is all-encompassing with the decision-making process. Game 7 of a World Series, I'm managing it differently. I might have taken Noah Cameron out after 5 and not let him face 1, 2, 3 for the third time in the order, and gone to, if I had everybody available, and gone to Urseg or Harvey or Lynch or whoever at that point in time. It's different managerial strategies for different situations, and at that point, with Reagan struggling and Lugo, his most recent outing was not all that good, and so he's going to the mound again. Lorenzen got shelled, and he's been struggling the last couple of times. You've already announced him as starting on Sunday and moving Chris Bubich back, so you can't really catch up on Sunday, you think, with Bubich, who's been awesome. So where are you catching up? Walk on Saturday? Okay, great. But he typically doesn't pitch past 7 innings, so you can't really even catch up then. So planning for the marathon is kind of the point of me saying steal an inning here with Noah Cameron if you can. If you can, Ren, do that.
I would say that one of the parts that maybe we haven't discussed just yet is if Noah Cameron is left in, and maybe it comes down to the pitcher, right? With Chris Bubich, I would say more often than not, with the way he's throwing, if you try to extend one more inning out of him and it doesn't work out, I could say, well, I mean, maybe Chris Bubich is better in that spot anyway than John Schreiber or than Daniel Lynch. But with Noah Cameron, maybe it comes down to, are you a full believer now that he is going to continue to look like this over and over again?
Yeah,
and so my question would be, if he goes out for the 7th, and I want to say it was Contreras that led off
4,
with
5,
a double.
6, yep.
Contreras
Herrera,
homers.
whoever.
And then Herrera singles, and it's 3-1. And then you go to Schreiber. What do we all feel the reaction would have been? Would it have said, hey, he was pitching well, he got burned by Contreras and Herrera? Or do we say, damn, Q really burned him? Q screwed over Noah Cameron in that spot.
I think the reaction would have been, how did you let him throw 4, 5, 6 for the third time through the order? My reaction would have been, the reason you do that is because you've got a doubleheader today. Reagan's going to the mound. You've got 5 games in 4 days. You got to think the bigger picture over these next 4 days. Cameron's given up 4 base runners all day, and Schreiber has been in that position before. So can I steal an out or 2 from Cameron to get to the 8th? And if I do, hell yeah, tip of the cap. Now I can throw Schreiber in the 8th, Estevez in the 9th, and go on to game 2 and have Lynch ready just in case Reagan's only goes 4 or 5. Or 3 in that particular game. That would have been my reaction, but I agree with you. The reaction would have been, what an idiot, Q's dumb, and he left Noah Cameron in there, and Noah Cameron did exactly what we all knew was going to happen, and that's give up runs to the 4, 5, 6 hitter the third time through the order.
And I think if something similar happens tomorrow night where you've got Max Fried going for New York and Noah Cameron, so I doubt it's going to be 3-0.
Right.
It'll probably be a low-scoring 1-0 or 2-1 game, assuming Noah Cameron keeps this trend going. But I would tell everybody that if there's a similar situation and it's 2-1 Royals and you're going into the 7th inning and Noah Cameron's at 80, 82 pitches, it goes back to that process over results type of thing. Or I believe that's the saying for it. They'll pull him again because they're looking at certain numbers in front of them. Now, I get it's a different 4, 5, 6 of the New York Yankees than it is of the St. Louis Cardinals. No disrespect to St. Louis, but you're probably going to have to face an Aaron Judge in that spot or somebody that's red hot at the plate. So I am curious that if there is another situation like that, depending on who's out there on the bump, what the move would be. If Urseg's back, maybe it is different.
Well, and that's if tomorrow, if we're looking at the exact same situation, and this is where the nuance comes in, this is where it's not all one side or the other. If tomorrow the same exact situation presents itself, and you've got Urseg returning on Wednesday or Thursday, the final game of the Yankees-Royals series, you've got 6 games in 6 days, you've got an off day next Monday again, and he goes to the bullpen, I'm way more okay with it. I'm totally, you got righties up there, I'm okay with it. Because you'll have a healthier bullpen with Urseg returning, and you got an off day coming up on Monday. You don't have to worry about the 5 games in 4 days. You got 6 games in 6 days, so you can manage it a little bit different until that off day on Monday. I'd be more in favor of it in that situation, and that's my point about the marathon versus sprint is I was looking at the totality of the situation and having all of those games there specifically without Urseg in your bullpen. And if Urseg's coming back Wednesday or Thursday, then I feel confident that I can bring Schreiber in or Zerpa or whoever and get them in the 7th and the 8th and the 9th and get through that. And hey, now Urseg's back and we've got our firemen and we've just now added a fresh arm to the bullpen. I'd be way more in favor of. And if that was the situation on Thursday, And Urseg was coming back on Friday, and they didn't have the rain out on Wednesday. Urseg was coming back on Friday, and he pulled Schreiber on Thursday. I'd have been okay with it. I'd have been perfectly fine with it.
Question for you guys. When do we get concerned
Tomorrow.
with Cole Reagans? When does the concern level start to really ramp up? Because now it has been 10 starts.
That's a good question.
5.18 ERA. The whip is 1.29. The strikeout numbers are electric. 76 strikeouts in 48 and 2/3 innings. I mean, that is absurd. That's 36.4%. It's 98th percentile. It's like him and Mason Miller. Like it's him and relievers. It's like 14.1 per 9. It's also not necessarily the best thing because that means he's going to full counts and throwing a lot of pitches, and he's not going deep into games.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 starts, 48 and 2/3 innings. So I don't know where you guys land on this, but
It's less than 5. Quick math there.
where is your concern level with Cole Reagans?
I feel if you are expecting this team to make a deep October run, they can't do it with this version of Cole Reagans. I will also say this in terms of concern level of maybe the results of moving him to the bullpen or replacing him. That's just never going to be the case. Cole Reagans could have a 6+ ERA, and because on the off chance he's on, you keep him there. Because the alternative right now is, okay, you move him to the bullpen, and so you keep Lorenzen in, who, yes, he was great yesterday. But to me, I can chalk up St. Louis's start to just like Seth Lugo's against Detroit. First start since the injured list. He wasn't as sharp in his rehab outing. He is fighting his command a bit, and that is problematic because if he's fighting his command and can only get you through 4 innings, you're not trusting that in the postseason. The upside, though, the ceiling, the strikeout numbers, that's always going to favor a guy when he figures it out, when he starts to get more comfortable again. But if he's healthy, which all signs are pointing to, he feels fine. It's just going through a bit of a rut. They're not going to move him from the rotation. I mean, he's not going.
I'm not saying
no,
that. By the way, I'm not. I don't want to be that. I'm saying
you're
bullpen.
You're definitely
Yes.
not.
Yeah,
There are
I'm not
people that
saying
are going, should you get him right like that? Should you send him back down to AAA to get right? I believe simply because of the dice roll, even when he's struggling, he could give you an outing where he goes 6 innings with 12 strikeouts.
Yeah, and I do wonder if the Royals were in the position of the Tigers right now. The Royals were playing like the best team in baseball. They've got a 7-game lead over the American League Central, best record in all of baseball. I wonder if Lugo's start against the Tigers would have been a rehab start.
Yeah.
Or if Reagan's start against the Cardinals would have been another rehab start just to get him right. But you are now in an uphill climb. You are chasing. You are trying to get back into contention for the division, and you don't want to then say, well, we're going to throw a bullpen game instead of Cole Reagans. Well, no. Reagans had his rehab start. He's a major leaguer. Let's get him out there. It wasn't sharp, but you know what? He was working on pitches or whatever it might have been. Whatever excuse you can give yourself. I don't know if that would have been the case. Maybe the exact same thing would have happened if they had a 7-game lead in the American League Central. Maybe they still throw Reagans out there against the Cardinals, Lugo against the Tigers. But I could probably make a case that they would say, we're going to slow play it a little bit because we've given ourselves this buffer, this room for error to slow play it, and now we're going to get a sharp Lugo and a sharp Reagans back. And it actually helps us because now it keeps our bullpen a little bit more fresh because these guys are going to go out there and do their thing. The concern I have for Reagans is April 13th is the last time he went past 5 innings. Yeah. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6 starts that he hasn't gone past 5 innings. He hasn't thrown a pitch in the 6th inning since April 13th against Cleveland when he went 7 2/3, gave up a run. It was his 3rd game of double-digit strikeouts and no walks. It was that 3rd game in a row where we're like, this guy is on an absolute heater. And since then, it's been 4 innings, 3 innings, 5 innings, 5 innings, 5 innings, 3 innings for Cole Reagans. He's the exact opposite of a Skubal in how they go about pitching and getting strikeouts and being dominant. Skubal is change up, change up, change up. I'll pitch to contact, and I'm getting strikeouts along the way because my stuff is nasty. And it feels like Reagans is whatever pitch sequence here to get this strikeout. I'm getting this strikeout on this at bat. 3-2. Throwing it, try to get, or 2-2, whatever. He's fouling it off. He's fouling it off. He's fouling it off. I'm going to get this one by him. Got him. Strikeout. There we go. Yeah, 8 pitches, and you got the strikeout where, Skubal got a ground ball on 2 pitches, and he's lasting later into games. That's the next evolution to me, or step for Reagans, is how can you be a strikeout pitcher while trying to be pitch efficient? It ain't easy to do. It's why we're talking about Skubal, the guy who won the Triple Crown last year.
Or Zach Wheeler. We're talking Cy
about
Young.
the top of the top. But we also were putting Cole Reagans into that category of true aces in baseball entering the season, that there's a handful of them, and we believed Cole Reagans was in that mix by finishing in the top 3 of Cy Young. We just haven't seen that translate to success. The strikeout numbers translate to lasting longer into games. The strikeout numbers have been there. They've been awesome. But it hasn't translated to zeros on the scoreboard and 7 or 8 innings of pitching into games.
So, scale of 1 to 10, go around real quick. 1 to 10, concern level with the Reagans.
I mean, I think it does have to be over 5, considering he was your ace going into the year, and it's a 5+ ERA with an IL stint, and it's June 9th. Like, there's still plenty of time to get things going, but I feel that I would be a little bit too lax if I said, oh, he's going to figure it out. It's a 1 to 2, because it's not that he's getting hit hard all the time. He's got bad command right now. Everything's missing high, and he doesn't have the same sharpness of that slider, curveball, and cutter that he had last year. It's pretty much being heavily reliant on the changeup, which is his best pitch, but you need the other ones, too, to be as good as he was last year.
He wears 55, so I'll go 5.5.
I will go 4.9.
Okay.
I'm just underneath the 50-50 mark. One more bad start, and I'll go above that.
Jack says you're dumb because Jack said it cannot be below 5, and you went 4.9. He just looked you right in the eye and said it cannot be below 5, and you said I'm going to go 4.9.
Didn't know we could use decimals here.
I'm an imbecile.
I wasn't until I remembered he's 55. Then I'm like, well, 5.5. Let's do that.
So. Yeah, then once you said that, I go have to do that. So I was going to say 4.
What's your decimal? What's your? It's above 5, so 5.1.
I'll go 5.9 to draw it down one. Yeah.
Take that, a full point higher than you, Sterling.
Well, the reason why is, again, people hate this from me because this is what I say, but I got to be consistent here. Get a drink in front of you if you're thirsty. The underlying numbers.
Are there underlying numbers to Cole Reagans?
Still look pretty darn good, and the command is why I'm still as high as I am. But the expected numbers of a 2.6 ERA, of a 201 batting average, is elite.
His FIP is 2.39 too. So.
I mean, it's the elite of the elite. So there's been a lot of unluckiness to it. But if you watch all the games, stuff that the underlying numbers don't always say, unless you get even farther down into the weeds, is that you're right. The command has been a concern. That even with the ERA where it's supposed to be, expected to be, well, that's not taking into account that's 5 innings worth of numbers. So that's my concern level, dude. That is my concern level is the lack of innings, the lack of command.
This is our concern, dude.
That the strikeout numbers are phenomenal and the ERA expected, all that stuff's great. But even if everything starts going his way, we're looking at 1 run, 5 innings, not 8 innings, 1 run, or 8 innings, 2 runs. It's still not maybe the most quality starts that will be received by Cole.
Well, he's got 2 starts that are upcoming that are against maybe not the way the Athletics have been playing. At least their top 3 with Soderstrom, Lawrence Butler, and then Jacob Wilson as well, who is right up there with Bobby Witt Jr. in terms of WAR. But you got the Athletics at home, and then I believe he would be making his next start in Arlington against the Rangers, the team he didn't get to face last year. That's a big-time game for him, a big-time outing that he certainly doesn't want to look the way that he has this year.
Well, and you can't expect him to be what he was in 2 of his best outings every single night. But going back and trying to figure out what happened against Minnesota when he goes 6 innings, 1 earned run, no walks, 11 strikeouts on 96 pitches, and then against Cleveland, 7 2/3, 1 run, no walks, 10 strikeouts on 89 pitches. What happened along the way there? Because 3 innings, 78 pitches against St. Louis. 5 innings, 95 pitches against Boston. When he's got 8 strikeouts, no walks, but, he's given up 9 base runners. Or 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, I should say. He's given up 9 base runners, and he's got as many pitches as he had when he went 6 innings and no walks and 11 Ks. He's got 6 more pitches than he had when he went into the 8th against Cleveland with 10 strikeouts and no walks. So what was happening there? Was he just pounding the zone and trusting his stuff? Was his stuff better and therefore he could trust it those particular nights? That he had the feel on the mound and saying, no, my slider's sharp, my curve is sharp, my cutter's working this way, my changeup's working this way. I can throw it all around the zone. They ain't touching it. Whereas against St. Louis, he might have said, Slider's not biting. If I keep this thing in the zone, it's going to be hit 415 feet. Now I've got to work even. I got to be even more fine, and now you're going to, be less command.
Here's fun. 3-game series. Or 5 games. 3-game series. We'll do a 3-game wild
Best
card
of
series.
three? So just
Best
two
of
ga-
3.
yeah.
Is he in that 3-man rotation right now?
Right now, I think Q still sends him out for game 1, although I would send Bubic out for game 1, and then Waka game 2, and then
I know.
Cameron or Lugo.
It's a wild question. It's a wild thought process, but 3-game
Yeah.
series, Jack.
If you have confidence that this has been a blip and next time out he's going to be great, you could throw Reagan's game 1 because he had the best postseason success last year. He was your opening day starter, and until the injury happened, he still was not pitching great, but he wasn't been as poor as he is right now. Save Bubic for game 2 on the off chance you lose game 1 instead of you throw Bubic game 1, offense doesn't score. Now maybe you've used your best arm. I get that works against the logic of will you throw your best guy in game 1? But if Reagan's is on and you can go from Reagan's to Bubic, then save game 3 for a seasoned vet like Waka, I feel that would be the best way to go about it. It also matters, too, what type of lineup are you facing?
Yeah.
Is it right-handed heavy? Because then you're going back-to-back lefties in those starts. So I'd be fascinated to know, first things first, get there, right?
Yeah.
But then how those guys look. But it's a fair question. A lot of people would say Bubic, that's for sure, though.
Yeah, and it's still June. It's we're not even to 81 games yet. We're sitting at what, 78 or no, 68, 66. Sorry, I'll get there eventually because they're 34 and 32. They're 2 games over 500. So 66
math,
games
baby.
so far. Yeah, nailed it. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. Let's get into the landscape of college athletics changed massively a few days ago, and we'll talk about what it means for the local teams, what it means moving forward, and how many lawsuits. The answer is yes, that these different schools will be facing. And I think there are now the issues of what the players were arguing about has now moved up a level to what the coaches are going to be arguing about. We'll get into that next. down, and everything is changing in a whirlwind around college athletics because revenue sharing is now officially adopted in the NCAA, up to $20.5 million that teams can share, essentially pay for play for athletes, split it up however you deem fit between the schools and then the school or the sports, and then the sports and their coaches and their general managers, whatever job titles decide which player gets what and how the roster management and construction goes and all of that. It's a 10-year agreement. So over 10 years, just like a salary cap in the NFL, over the 10 years, it's expected to go up each and every year. There's going to be a money reassessment after 3 years, which could be sort of like a balloon. So it's going to go up a little bit next year and the year after that and the year after that. They're expecting over the course of 10 years, it will go up to probably maybe up to $35 million per school over the next 10 years. It's at 20.5 right now. We'll see what it gets to. But all of the discussions about what it's going to look like with NIL, if we are then going to have less of the wild, wild west and more of a structured environment, it certainly looks like that's the case. I do wonder how this is going to be. Like in 2 years, we look back on this decision and what the takeaway is then. Because right now they've got the College Sports Commission, which is what they created with this. Brian Seeley, who was with MLB, is now the CEO of the College Sports Commission. So one, for the College Sports Commission, is cap management. Every school has to submit their budget, who they paid, how much they paid, what the contract was, all of that. So you've got a budget that the College Sports Commission will look over to make sure everybody is within compliance. There is still an NIL element here, but there's an NIL clearinghouse that's run by Deloitte. They are going to have some sort of an algorithm that's going to be created, because I think they're a tax company, CPA company, whatever it might be.
Yeah, they are.
So Deloitte,
What is the big four?
yeah, is going to be the NIL clearinghouse. It's called NIL Go. So any affiliate with a school, booster, whatever connection with the school, if they are connected with the school and a player is getting an NIL deal from them, there will be a rigorous investigation and a standard of fair market value that has their terms, valid business purpose. You can either approve or disapprove. So Caitlin Clark, State Farm. State Farm. She gets an NIL deal if she's at Iowa, State Farm, no big deal.
Sure.
That's a legit NIL. Hey, Collective, we're giving you this money just to come here. That's not NIL. That's not going to pass. It's going to be disapproved. They will approve or disapprove. You have two chances to get it approved. You can submit it to the NIL Go, and they will, if they disapprove it, they will give you recommendations because it's fair market value. One of the recommendations might be you're getting $100,000 for this. You're actually only worth $50,000. So here's our recommendation: redo the contract for $50,000, and then you can come back to us. You've got two chances, and then the agreement dissolves at that point if you don't meet the standards or whatever with the NIL Go clearinghouse. This is just all part of it. And then they have created a new company, a brand new LLC that they have created, these schools, that is going to be the enforcement wing of this, that is going to investigate and hand out penalties. It's essentially taking the place of the NCAA investigative and enforcement staff. The Committee on Infractions for the NCAA, the COI, that the NCAA has done for many, many, many years. The schools and conferences, the Big Four essentially, have created this company, this LLC. And what I find to be so great about it is for years and years and years and years and years, people have said, get rid of the NCAA. The NCAA sucks. Get rid of the NCAA. Get rid of the NCAA. Get rid of the NCAA. As if you get rid of the NCAA, nobody will be a governing body. And what I said all along was, if you get rid of the NCAA, these schools will still find a way to have a governing body. You know why? Because you're cheating, I'm not. I'm doing this because I care about the kid. And you don't know the family implications here and the personal connection I have. That's why this kid's getting money. You're doing it for pay for play. You're cheating. Somebody needs to investigate that. Well, we don't have anybody. Well, we should create it because that person is cheating, and that's not within the rules we agreed to. Okay, fine. We'll make a rule that you can't throw a shoe against the wall. Okay, great. Sir, they just threw a pen against the wall. Okay, fine. Appendix B, you can't throw a pen against the wall either. By the way, they threw a shoe and it hit the TV. Okay, Appendix C, you can't throw a shoe and hit a TV either. And that's how you get thousands and thousands of pages of the NCAA's enforcement and committee on infractions, is because it starts with this and somebody pushes the envelope. So now they have created, to circumvent the NCAA, their own LLC to come up with the investigative wing and the penalty wing to see if teams are circumventing the cap, if there's money under the table.
Do you know what D
Are they
is?
funneling it through churches in the South? You know
what D is? It's North Carolina, you're cheating. North Carolina, you have fake classes. All right, number D, Mizzou, you're screwed.
Yep, sorry.
North Carolina, you're not going to comply. Mizzou, you are.
Because you did it for a player, and North Carolina, technically those classes were open to everybody. It just happened to be filled with student athletes
If you comply,
that were trying to keep stay eligible.
if you comply, your postseason hopes will die.
There you go. That's I love it. So they have done essentially to circumvent the NCAA to say we're not going to deal with the NCAA's Committee on Infractions.
They created their own NCAA.
Exactly. They created their own Committee on Infractions.
My thought as of recently, by the way, I wonder what you think about this. The NCAA played this perfectly. When they were forced to let everyone get paid and all the students, they said, you know what, have at it. No rules, no guidelines, no governing body. And guess what?
You need us.
Exactly.
Well, but the thing is, though,
need us.
But the thing is, though, this is them saying they don't. This is
Well,
them saying we actually
They're
don't
saying
need
they
you.
don't, but I'm saying like over the past 4 or 5 months, you know who's been sitting back just laughing their ass off is the NCAA, because everyone's been screaming about if only there was something to govern all these
This is
schools.
wild, wild west.
Exactly.
And part of it is the NCAA and the school presidents and people that are member institutions of the NCAA, so it's all encompassing as one, is and was and continue to fight this year after year and spend millions and millions of dollars of litigation in court to try to fight the players getting any sort of rights and money, and certainly trying to keep them from being employees so they can unionize and collectively bargain. And that's going to be an issue moving forward, is that, how much of this can be collectively bargained? Well, none of it, because they're not a union, so you can't collectively bargain this. Okay, so if they are then exempt status, the NCAA, then the players are not employees and can't unionize. Well, if they lose their exempt status, then the players unionize, become employees, and now you can collectively bargain this. But I just think it's funny, this company they have created to hand out their infractions for schools that they feel like are breaking the rules and circumventing the salary cap, the budget, all of those things. Now, part of this is that it's required to be done in 45 days. Committee on Infractions never had an end date. It was just, we'll get to it when we get to it. Part of this is, so this is where they're saying, creating our own, we can put in things that we have had issues with in the past with the NCAA. How long it takes the NCAA to investigate and hand down penalties is absurd.
Yeah.
45 days is the max. Not done in 45 days, you better have a ruling. If not, then whatever you were investigating didn't happen. So, there are some things here that they're using that they were frustrated with the NCAA. But I find it funny that one of the first things they do is create this investigative wing because you don't trust your neighbor.
Yeah.
All right. My car's parked on the street because I need it for this particular day. Your car's parked on the street because of it's frivolous. You're not supposed to park a car on the street. HOA says you can't park. I'm going to have to call the HOA because you're not parking. You're parking your car on the street and it doesn't. I'm doing that because I'm trying to do some things on my driveway. It's a little bit different here. Not that anybody would do that. And if you can't park on the street, screw your HOA. Anyway, go ahead.
What if, now hear me out here. This is crazy. Hear me out. What if there was a situation where we could make it relatively more fair, where it's at least, it's not going to be completely fair, but it makes it all easier, where these kids get to choose a school and they get their education and room and board and all this stuff paid for.
They do that. They do that.
And that's the payment.
Well, cool. As long as you want to work here just for trade. Do you want to work here just...
No, because college is different than
is
life.
Is it? Well, it's a
Yes.
business, isn't it? Aren't these schools businesses now? Because you know what? They're starting to take out equity firms, starting to invest in colleges and
Because
college
of
athletics.
this, man. I get it, but this was
So then, hold on.
my concern the whole time.
So
dude.
then coaches, because you're right, it's college. So then coaches should only work so maybe their kids can get free education, right? The coaches shouldn't get tens of millions of dollars.
I
They
think
should
it's
just
gone
get
a little,
room and
little,
board.
little crazy.
No. They should.
No,
They
'cause
should
that's
only
their
get room
job.
and board. Oh, it's their job. Okay, so players in school.
Yeah, it was a
It's
job
not a
for
job
us.
for them?
It was a job for us too.
It's not a
I
job
don't
for a student
disagree.
athlete?
You were close, Sterling. Here's my idea. They can't go out and get a part-time job like every other college student can, and that's how average college students fund their college,
Agreed. Yes.
by getting a part-time job. So just as an employee of the school, a student athlete should be paid for every hour they're either working out, practicing, and it should be a high number. It should be like $50 an hour, a very high, like $25 to $50 an hour, and that's your part-time job, and that's also your payment for working for the school, and then you earn everything else on the side with NIL.
Yeah, or
It's totally fine. I'm okay with that because
or
what
you
we're
get fair
going to do
market,
now
or
is
you get fair market value for the revenue that you bring in.
Bingo.
And it's look, getting the room and board and getting this college education is a fantastic deal for 95% of the players
100%.
in Division I. It's a great deal for the 35th, 37th, 30th, 80th player on a college football team. It's a fantastic deal. For the top 1, 2, 3, or 4, it's different. They are helping the school. It's like a school that gives a scholarship
no, but
for
everyone
academics.
thinks they're the top 1, 2, or 3% is the issue.
Right, but they're not going to get the money here. You can think that all you want. You can think that you're worth $500,000 in radio, but nobody's going to pay that to you.
The Tennessee dude. I mean, you're already going to start seeing issues arise where people value themselves more than anyone else.
Great, but it doesn't mean you're going to get that money. It's okay to value yourself, but you are worth what somebody is willing to pay. And it used to be to where you weren't getting any of it. Now with fair market value, you can actually find out what your fair market value. PJ Haggerty's fair market value apparently was $2 million.
Yeah.
The dude at BYU apparently is $5 or $6 million. That's his market value because somebody was willing to pay that to him.
And this was all meant to really be because PJ Haggerty's jersey is in the bookstore, not because they're going to go sell PJ Haggerty $5 million of, he's gonna bring in $5 million of sales at the car dealership.
But Kansas State does feel like PJ Haggerty helps us more than we're helping him with his college degree. Whereas academically, it's like, well, but I had to go and pay for school. Yeah, because that school didn't value you to say you are helping us more than we're helping you. You have to pay us because we're presenting the value to you. I'm giving you an academic scholarship here because your educational purposes and what it means nationally, Bright Flight, whatever, perfect SAT, you are more valuable to us than we are to you. So we're going to give you academic money. That's the point. And so scholarships, it's you're more valuable, so we're giving you a scholarship here. But there are players that are way more valuable than that. I love the people that hate socialism but are perfectly fine with the NCAA gathering all of this money and then equally dispersing it no matter who is the one bringing in the money or not.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Like, we're all about capitalism.
But it's not going to end up being that. We know that everyone's going to
It's
start
not going to be equally dispersed. Of course not. It's going to go to fair market value.
It should go. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that if you
amount
are
of money
the
to spend.
if you are
You only have a certain amount of money to
it's
spend.
never
You got
going to end up
20.5.
being
Well, here's
what we
the
think
thing.
because then everyone's going to complain. Every single organization at the school,
Right.
and then you're going to start
Figure
seeing
it out. Figure it out. It's not that shouldn't be the player's problem. They have been making millions and millions. This whole BS.
Will it
about,
go to high school?
I don't know. High school isn't getting 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars a year from TV rights.
No.
What's the check Missouri's cashing by being in the? Why did Missouri leave the Big 12 for the SEC?
Money.
Was it for the tradition? Was it so that they could be in the Southeast?
TV money.
We've always wanted to recruit in Florida, so let's go switch conferences.
So they could switch the Big 12 bar name to Campus Bar and Grill. That was why, actually. That's all.
Right.
The
So
only
they
reason.
did it for money. So there was a money reason to disconnect from all of the historical rivalries and connections that your fan base had
And it
growing
sucks.
up for money. That's fine, but
Kinda
they made the decision for money. They have told you that check and TV rights is a big deal for our business that we're running here. And the whole BS about Alabama saying, well, we were $12 million, in the black. We lost $12 million last year. Your budget was $240 million. Your revenue was $228 million. You know what it was 15 years ago? It was like 90. So your revenue was 90 and your budget was around 100. Now your revenue's 228 and your budget's around 240. Why is that? Why does revenue and budget equally increase for these schools to say, well, we're broke? You know why? Because if they make too much money, the academic side is saying, hold on. Why aren't you giving money to us? We're offering these scholarships.
And Uncle Sam.
Yeah, and if they don't make enough money, well, now you're a drain on this university. We're having to subsidize you. You need to work your books so that the revenue and budget is almost even. Let's take a loss here or there. We have a little bit of a surplus here or there. And even Alabama admitted that, yeah, we took a loss because it was one-time payments for Nick Saban in his retirement.
Sure.
So that's why they took a loss. But also, why is their budget now increased all that much? Well, coaches' salaries, better facilities because of all the money coming in, private charter planes, recruiting budgets are now increased for all these different schools. And now they're going to have to take some of that to use for revenue sharing, which is perfectly fine.
It's why it's more rare that there's not construction happening on a college campus versus because if, hey, we're building this, we don't have any money because we're building this new library.
Always growing.
Yeah.
But what's going to be fascinating to me is, so all of those things aside of arguing whether players deserve the money or not, they're getting it. But what's going to be fascinating is, as we've talked about, the breakdown.
Yeah.
So the average, I think, is going to be, teams are going to go more or less, but I think the average across the country is going to be 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and the 5% that's left over to the rest of the sports. That seems to be what the average is going to be. But what I am really wondering, because there's no such thing as an even playing field. You could say the $20.5 million, now everybody's on an even playing field. They're not, because Missouri has 20 varsity sports.
Yes.
KU has 18 varsity sports. K-State has 16 varsity sports. Stanford has 36 varsity sports. They all have $20 million to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
And so K-State has 36 varsity sport or 16 varsity sports for $20 million, and Stanford has 36 varsity sports for $20 million. So it's not all going to be the same. But also, let's go down to Auburn, Alabama. And you're going to tell me that Hugh Freeze is going to want $15-16 million. And Bruce Pearl's going to sit idly by and go, yeah, cool, I'll take 4. I'll take 4.5. Nate Oates, by the way, is getting 6. Nate Oates is getting 6 and I'm getting 4.5? Oh, hell no. I want more money, Hugh Freeze. Hell no, you ain't getting more money. It's a football school, buddy. War Eagle is from football. Yeah, but Nate Oates is getting more money. Cool, you got to deal with that. I don't care how much money Nate Oates is getting. Is Vanderbilt going to choose their baseball program?
Yeah.
Because it's so good, so you can spend more money on baseball? Maybe sacrifice men's basketball and do football and baseball? How are schools going to disperse the money with the coaches? And by the way, the SEC and Greg Sankey, they tried to pass a rule in the SEC that every school had to have a minimum percentage going to football. And there's a school in the SEC that said, over my dead body. Any idea which school in the SEC said, you ain't going to tell us how much money we can spend on basketball?
The only
Kentucky.
blue blood.
Kentucky said, we ain't going, no, not happening. And so they backtracked. And so the SEC is not having a certain quota of percentage on football because Kentucky is saying, we're going to spend more money on basketball than other schools are. They're already saying that because they fought against it immediately. And that's where you get into which schools value which sports. And also, I do wonder if some sports, it would suck if it happens, if some sports are dropped and turned to club instead of Division I. That would suck.
That's my concern of all of this.
But there are also some things that are positive. Baseball has gotten screwed forever.
100%.
In Division I. They have gotten screwed forever. However many players they have on a team and 11.7 scholarships. And now every baseball player across America in high school and junior high now has every Division I program with 34 full scholarships starting on Friday. Every Division I program across the country can give a full scholarship up to 34 spots on a baseball roster.
And money.
I mean, baseball to me is the biggest beneficiary of this because they have had to deal with how do we disperse a percentage of a scholarship for certain players. And the baseball coaches have had to deal with that for a long time. And so all the BS about, well, if you're in a locker room and this guy's getting $2 million, that guy's getting $500,000, how do you deal with it? I don't know. Go ask the baseball coach that this guy's getting 75% of a scholarship and I'm getting 20% and he's a fourth outfielder and I'm a starting center fielder. This is BS. Well, that's because as the season went along, you were better. I know, but you can't change it now. Now we go to the offseason, and then we got to figure it out. But right now, I'm paying 80% here. He's paying 15% or 25%, and he ain't even playing. They've had to deal with that. Now the ADs have to deal with Hugh Freeze is coming to have a conversation. Chris Kleiman's going to talk. Jerome Tang saying P.J. Haggerty wants $2 million. We only have 1.5 left. Where can we find $500,000 somewhere else? And Chris Kleiman is going, no. We got this tight end that Oregon's coming calling that's been committed to us for a while, and Oregon wants to talk to him. We need that $500,000. We ain't giving it to Jerome Tang. Now they have to deal with that, which we'll see what happens with all of these different things. You can figure out where you want your advantage to be in which sport. Because if Villanova or St. John's or Marquette in the Big East say we're spending every single dollar, we're spending 95% of every single dollar we bring in or we can use on basketball. Okay? So now Shaka Smart and Rick Pitino can go out there and spend $7 million on basketball, and Bruce Pearl sitting there with 3 or 4. The playing field isn't level, but it's different than what it has been for a while. And as we take a break, I also wonder this. Have we brought back the under-the-table dealings? Because we used to wonder how kids ended up at certain schools. Well, now we'll know what the money is that they're getting. But before NIL, we know P.J. Haggerty's getting $2 million. He didn't have to hide it. He's getting $2 million. We know what, Ted DiBiase or whatever the dude's name is at BYU. I can't remember. I just went Ted DiBiase because it was close. At BYU, the number 1 recruit, number 2 recruit, now that Darren Peterson moved up to number 1 in some publications, how much he's getting, we know that, how much he's getting. But if Haggerty ended up at K-State for $1 million, just for example, and it's like, hold on, he went there for $1 million? Well, is he only getting $1 million? Or is Cam Newton maybe getting money funneled to him certain ways? I think we've gone back a little bit to the how are the players getting that money and how much is going under the table and how much is going to the players that's outside of the salary cap. And every single school has lawyers on lawyers on lawyers to figure out the fine print and all of these different rules as to how they can
circumvent
the cap, get around this. How can we give money here or money over there that doesn't count to our 20.5? That's going to be the next dealing, is how you can give more money to players that doesn't count against your revenue sharing. The whole thing is now completely different. And what it also is, multi-year deals. People have been complaining about, well, just year to year to year. Essentially, these contracts, you own the NIL rights of that player. There's the kid from Wisconsin that transferred to Florida, I think, that signed in March, contingent on this being passed, and his NIL rights were signed over, I think, to Wisconsin, contingent on this being passed. It's passed. Wisconsin has already said, we're taking action. We're getting some of that money back that we gave him because he signed a contract, then broke the contract and went somewhere else and got more money. He owes us.
Yeah.
So these contracts, by the way, have buyouts. They have clauses. They have money that's owed if you leave early. People have been wanting this, right? Well, what do the schools get if this guy leaves? Well, now these contracts say his NIL rights have signed over to this particular school. You leave, there's a penalty, just like coaches. And there's also going to be the tampering, because Wisconsin is also alleging tampering. And we know tampering goes on right now. We know kids get communicated with all the time right now, every one of them. Avery Johnson talked about it. He's got people, reaching out to him, last year. There have been some people, maybe not a coach, but, people are reaching out. We'll see. The whole thing is, it's all different now, and it starts on July 1st. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. have to be examined is the revenue sharing budget is not school year to school year. Like, it's not September to May. It's July 1st to July 1st. So let's say on July 1st, let's use Missouri for example. Say on July 1st, Missouri goes out and spends all $16 million of the money that they have allocated for football on July 1st. What happens at the end of the season in December and January when transfers are going around? They don't have any more money until July 1st. So now, you've got to spend money on players, but you can't spend your entire budget because starting in December and January, you got to spend even more money at that point. We got Learn Funniest Best later on in the show. Joining us now, Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast here on a Monday. Joel, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Jason?
I am doing just fine. I could be doing a lot better if it wasn't for Thursday and Friday. Let's throw in Saturday as well. Why not? Just to boot on that loss for the Royals. Not to just be all sort of negative Nancy and doom and gloom, but let's start with the weekend that was. How do you assess it? How do you come away with this Royals team, 2 games over 500 and losing the series to the White Sox?
Yeah, I think losing the series to the White Sox is pretty inexcusable for this team, especially the way that game ended on Friday. That 8th inning was gross and embarrassing on pretty much every level of this team from what we've expected from them for the last year and a half or so. Glad they were able to salvage it on Sunday. We still see some good things from this offense and the lineup shuffle that we saw after, headed into that St. Louis series. Maybe some things trending in the right direction in that regard, but still the same issues seem to plague them with runners in scoring position, situational hitting. Maybe that gets sorted out as time goes on and the sample grows as this lineup continues to gel in its current construction. But we'll see, man. I don't know. I'm still in kind of wait-and-see mode on a lot of this, and all that to say, despite being 34-32, despite some offensive inconsistency and some of these issues that we've talked about, week in, week out for most of the season, they're still only a game and a half out of a wild card spot. The AL is pretty muddied up in the middle with these wild card things, so they're still very much in it. And one hot week could be the difference in them, getting back into the wild card and righting the ship a little bit.
Yeah, oddly enough, even with that rough Friday and rough Saturday, it's rough Friday, rough Saturday, because they won Thursday night 7-5 and then lost 6-5. That's right.
They split the doubleheader and then lost Friday, Saturday.
So I'm thinking of the back-to-back games where they had 3 total runs. That was Friday into Saturday. Even with that, over those 6 games on the road trip, they averaged over 5 runs per game. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from the new lineup with Garcia batting third and Vinny fourth. Salvi thankfully got into one yesterday, batting fifth. Jack Caglione sixth. You're extending the lineup a little bit, and certainly guys being hot helps. Maikel Garcia batting the way that he is. Vinny being one of the hottest hitters in baseball over the last month helps. Bobby is doing Bobby things and trying to maybe literally be Superman. I'm not sure. He leaps the tall grass by a single bound while hovering in the air to catch a baseball fully spread out. It was just phenomenal. 2 of them, one better than the other.
2 of them in the week, yeah.
Both of, even if you take away the first one, the second one was still really impressive because of everything that went into it with the inning as well. But the second one was oh, that was nice. That was nice. Wasn't as cool as the one on Thursday, but it was cool. It was nice. It was all right. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the offense. How do you sort of? It's odd because I feel like the offense is better, and certainly the 5 runs per game over this stretch is proving that. But, man, it still feels like sometimes they can't get out of their own way with, leadoff, single, double play. First and second, nobody out, double play. Man on first, caught stealing. First and second, strikeout, ground out, fly out. And yet still they've got over 5 runs per game. So how do you sort of put that whole thing into context? Is this going to be an offense that's going to be on the whole better across the board, but is still going to have those inconsistent runs of 6 runs in one game and then 1 run the next game?
I think that might be the best way to put it, and that was kind of the answer I was trending towards as you were finishing your question. Yes, I think if you look at it from 50,000 feet, the offense is going to be better, and this is also assuming that in a month and a half or so, they're able to add a bat at the deadline to lengthen the lineup a little more. Cags is a little bit more established, and the offense looks a little bit better. But what we've seen through 2+ months of this season is, they're going to have nights where they go out and they put together a 6th spot, and they put up a crooked number late that helps them win a game. But then they're going to come out another day and they're going to go 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position, scratch across 1 run on 9 hits, and lose the game 3-1 because you still got an awesome start from your starting pitcher. It's just kind of who they are at this point. They are better now in spots with runners in scoring position, but it's still not good enough. They were 0 for 13 in the first 2 games of this series, and they were 0 for 7 going into the 7th inning on Sunday, and then they were able to scratch a few across late to help put it away on Sunday and help get the win. But yeah, we're still going to see a lot of that inconsistency because that's just what they've shown over the large sample that we have so far. Now, if we're able to see some of that correct in the other direction, then I'm obviously going to be willing to change my opinion because the stats will reflect it. But from what I have in front of me right now, this is still going to be a very inconsistent offense, and they're going to have to rely on their pitching continually and hope the offense is able to break out and throw some crooked numbers up a couple times a week to help them win.
What do you think about the we'll get into some Q decisions here, but just as a quick look ahead to the Yankees before we look back a little bit more, but what do you think of the rotation setup for the Yankees, that it's Cameron Bubich and Cole Reagans? Max Fried going tomorrow night, would like to have not seen him, but, Schmidt hasn't been all that great, and Will Warren on Thursday, I should say, against Cole Reagans should be, advantage Royals, but, they both have a 5 ERA. So the way that it sets up, they skip Chris Bubich in the rotation, so they get him tomorrow Wednesday with Noah Cameron going tomorrow, and then Bubich on Thursday. Or
you
Reagans
have
on Thursday.
Confidence in all three, and then I know that Reagans has not been quite the same guy this year, and a lot of that is just it's health related more than production because he's striking out guys at a higher clip, he's walking guys at a lower clip, but he's getting hit harder. So there's going to be some adjustments that need to be made from him. And we'll see what those are. But from what we've seen from Cole Reagans through his whole career, he's going to get right. And this is not going to be who he is for the rest of the season, at least I don't believe, because of what I saw at the end of 23 and all of last season. And maybe I think the extra rest will help Chris Bubich. That's something that they seem to put a premium on right now is, hey, this is awesome. But he's already surpassed what he did last season in 2 months. So giving them an extra day, going to a 6-man rotation for a little bit is going to be to their benefit as they continue to go through this season. I think it's obviously going to help Bubich because just giving that extra rest a year removed from Tommy John is a good move. Helps Cole Reagans get an extra day, keep the legs healthy, that groin injury from popping back up again. And I think it's also going to help Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha, guys that are in their mid-30s through career highs or close to career highs in innings last year, that continue that workload, to mitigate that workload a little bit. And this is not going to be a permanent solution, but I could see them trying to work this a few times through the rotation. That might get you to the All-Star break. And when you get to that point, it puts you in a position where your starters are healthy and ready to go down the stretch of the season, assuming that they're still going to be in a playoff spot and ready to go.
Yeah, that was going to be my question and by the way, I'll figure it out eventually. Today's Monday. They have an off day today. They are playing 3 games starting tomorrow, which means Tuesday is Noah Cameron, and Wednesday is Chris Bubich, and Thursday is Cole Reagans, and today is Monday, Jason. We'll get to the bottom of this. Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast. My next question to you was going to be, do you think this is how they are able to utilize and still have Lorenzen and Noah Cameron in the rotation and not send one of the bullpen or send Cameron down? Is that there's a taking of turns through the rotation of, all right, Bubich is skipped. Hey, next time through, Noah Cameron's spot's going to be skipped. Next time through, we're going to skip Wacha. Next time through, it's Reagans. Next time through, it's Lugo. And therefore, you can still have these 6 guys being a part of the rotation, but not a true 6-man rotation where each person is going to have their, rest over what would be, 5 days rest now. How do you think they do this? Is this maybe the way that they go about it, just skipping certain starts along the way?
It could be. They haven't exactly said what they're going to do, and if it's going to be a true 6-man rotation or Lorenzen's going to spot start, quote unquote, for these guys, as the rotation continues to go, or hey, we're going to bullpen this day to skip a start, whatever. We haven't heard anything like that. If it's a true 6-man rotation, then that's their way of trying to still give Lorenzen starts, who, to his credit yesterday, was very good after the first inning homer, settled in and helped the Royals win that game. And I know that it had been a point of contention after the 2 blow-ups in the previous start. He settled back in. But I do think long-term, when they decide, hey, we can't do this anymore, we need Reagans every 5th day, we need Bubich every 5th day instead of every 6th, then you can move Michael Lorenzen to the bullpen where there is supreme value still there as a guy, in a 1-inning or 2-inning burst, lets his stuff play up a little bit more. And I think it will allow him to still add some value to this team in either a multi-inning role and add some depth to a bullpen that kind of needs it in those maybe lower leverage innings in the fifth or sixth, leading into the higher leverage guys, which we know are pretty solid for this team. So there's still some avenues there, and there's still clear depth in the rotation. This is the way I think they're going to do it, just to keep guys healthy as we're heading into the dog days of summer.
Visiting with Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast. All right, let's get into Q decisions. Over the course of the season, I guess it doesn't matter what manager you are or what team you manage. If a bullpen guy comes out and isn't any good, then the manager's an idiot. If the bullpen guy comes out and does his job, well, that's what he was supposed to do anyway, so the manager's oftentimes no credit there. But that's just how it goes with the life of a manager. But as we look at it and discuss and analyze Matt Quatraro, I am perfectly fine with what he's done along the way. I've got some questions, like why is Massey DHing and Jonathan India playing second base? I would flip those, but that's sort of needing a further explanation to me of that. But Quatraro's decisions, two of them have been much debated this past week. Cameron on Thursday, and then the bunt on Friday, which, again, I assess is Quatraro sticking up for his player and saying, well, we wanted to move the guys over. I think that was Garcia bunting on his own. I don't think Quatraro was telling Michael Garcia to bunt. I think that was him bunting on his own. That's just my own personal opinion. Could be wrong. What do you make of those decisions, what took place, and the job of Matt Quatraro?
So I still like Q as a manager, and I know that is an unpopular opinion because no fan likes their manager. I mean, if you look across baseball, like Yankee fans want Aaron Boone fired after every loss. No one liked Dave Roberts until they won this most recent World Series. Like, it's just a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people have just lost the plot on it, and now it's just any move that he makes, it just is confirmation bias to their already negative opinion. But this could be a debate for a whole nother day. I have way too many opinions on this and things I can't say on air. But regarding the decision with Noah Cameron, I was fine with them pulling him after the sixth. It was going to be the middle of the order, third time through. It's a small sample, but Noah Cameron's gotten hammered third time through the order. It's like a 920 OPS, something along that line. When guys have seen him a third time through, he's only faced the full lineup three times once in his career, and it was just that he never got to see anybody a fourth time. They've kept his pitch count around 85 to 90 pitches. He hasn't thrown more than 91 in any inning. So those two factors show me, okay, they wanted to get him through six, and he did a great job. And then you turn it over to a bullpen and a back end of a bullpen that has been very good for most of this year. You go to John Schreiber in the seventh. Despite maybe one or two outings this year where he hasn't performed, he's been very good. And so you expect him to be able to go out there and close out that game, and he couldn't get it done. And Daniel Lynch couldn't do it either. And so it snowballed with the lack of performance despite the track record that the bullpen has for the vast majority of this season, even without Lucas Erceg in there on the injured list. So, that is what it is, but I still think that decision was the correct move, and the results did not match the process that was involved in that. If the decision for Michael to bunt did come from Quatraro and company in the dugout to move the runner over, I think that is about as indefensible of a move as you can make in that situation. Michael Garcia is your three-hole hitter. He can put the ball in play and drive runners in. He's done that for most of this season, been one of your most consistent hitters all year. Asking him to bunt in that spot, to me, does not make any sense whatsoever. If it were, John Rave and Drew Waters at the bottom of the order, first and second, nobody out, and Kyle Isbell's up there, yes, you let him bunt. Even if I don't like the bunt play very often, Kyle Isbell, possesses that skill to get it down and be situational about it. If Michael acted rogue and decided to do that on his own, then, that's his prerogative, and I still wholeheartedly disagree with it. But, it's just not – that is not the situation that you need to bunt in that spot. This team has struggled so mightily with runners in scoring position that giving up outs with the middle of your order up, it's not going to help anyone. So that to me was the game, and then obviously – the eighth inning blew up on them because they needed Bolin to get a second inning because everyone was shot from the previous 2 days. But the game to me ended right there in the eighth inning, and you could just feel it with Michael he got the bunt down, but then the base running from India was poor in that spot, and the bunt wasn't good enough. They had to move the runner, or they were able to get the runner at third, and you end up in the same situation with no one scores. It's just not something this offense can afford, giving up outs.
I've never seen a base runner in a force out slide with their lead foot past the bag. To then touch the bag with their trail foot. I don't think I've ever seen that, especially in a situation like that. I will, as we talk about this, on Friday I got torched. I was joking about it in the first part of the show, in that I found myself who almost always, and this is what I was, joking with people too. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand my own, feeling on this as to why I'm on this side, but I am. I'm not going to run away with what I actually think and feel in that situation. I am almost always a don't bunt, figured out guy. But the reason I got everybody coming after me is I tweeted out, I'm like, I'm fine with the bunt. I'm fine with it. And the reason I was fine with it is, like, this team cannot score runs, and I know that Garcia is your number 3 hitter, and you don't take the bat out of your number 3 hitter, but your number 3 hitter bounced into a double play the day before, then did the same thing the next day and bouncing into a double play. So it's one of the reasons why I think he might have done it on his own. And the hottest hitter on your team is Vinny, and for 7 innings, you had an opportunity to have a big inning, and it's 2-2 against the White Sox, man. Can you just find a way to get a run, win the game, get out of there, and then piece some, offense together the next day, and boy, I was finally in my life a 1%er. I did it. I made it. I made it to the 1%, just in the wrong side of what people felt like was the strategy, and I get the other side of it, and I typically would be on the other side, but I've just watched this offense not come through so often in those situations that I was fine with. Can you just move them over and then let Vinny come through, get a run, and get the hell out of there and just beat the White Sox any port in a storm, because losing to the White Sox is not good. And a 3-2 victory on Friday and Saturday, I would love for that to have been the case, and them swept this team by winning 3-2. That was not the case. It didn't matter ultimately in the bottom half when the bottom fell out, and it was embarrassing and one of the worst half innings we've seen in a Royals team in a while. And I don't mean just like weeks. I mean like maybe all of last year and this year, going back to maybe 2023, the last time there was an inning like that. But I know that I am in the very, very small minority of that, but I'm like, man, I'm okay with it at this situation. And typically, I'd be the one arguing with myself. But in this situation, I've just been so resigned to this team not getting runs that it was almost like I had been beaten down by their lack of coming through in that situation, that I'm like, bleep it, try something different, man. I'm okay with it.
I understand that perspective, certainly, and I think it kind of goes back to what I said a little bit ago, like the context of the bunt play, first and second shots. I'm not a huge fan of it, but if like Kyle Isbell's up there doing it, or or Freddie Fermin or something like that, in that situation, if they're the batter, yes, put that play on, because they can get the bunt down and be good, and are skillful at it. Even if it's not necessarily a play that you see too much in modern baseball, like those guys have the knack for it. Let them do it.
Yeah.
I think the context of first and second, the middle of the order, the guys that you trust to drive in runs, essentially taking the bat out of their hands, or Michael taking the bat out of his own hands in that spot, I wholeheartedly disagree with, and I would rather them just swing away and try to move runners that way. I'd rather them go down trying to put the ball in play that way than give up an out.
And I will also say, when it was 2-0, I would have preferred them change the strategy at that point. Because it's now 2-0, and he's probably going to groove one, because he doesn't want to go 3-0 and load the bases with nobody out for the hottest hitter, one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball, in Vinny. So it's 2-0. At that point, I would have rather him swing away, which makes it even more frustrating, because he did groove one, and Michael Garcia still with one right over the plate couldn't bunt it to one side or the other, bunted it right back to the pitcher. That was very frustrating in that situation. Let's end on a positive. I believe it'll be a positive. But your assessment of Jack Caglione's first week in the big leagues, what we saw of him in a big league game, big league pitchers in these 6 games.
A lot of, honestly, what I expected. The power is there. The ability to hit the crap out of the ball to all fields is there. You do swings a lot. That's the thing he's going to have to work on. And it's not necessarily the quality of the swing. Like some of the chase stuff to me is a little bit overblown, but it's the quantity of swings from him, especially early in the count, that I want to see him work on. But this is where he's going to have to do it. If he was stayed in AAA, he was still going to do all of these things with the quantity of the swings, some of the chase stuff, and just put the ball in play like crazy. But at AAA, he was going to be able to get away with it, and it's just going to continue to reinforce some of those bad habits that he kind of has and has followed him for most of his college and professional career. So this is where he's going to have to learn it. And I think what we've seen so far is that he is a pretty quick learner, and he is willing to make adjustments, and he's not just hard-headed in his ways. Nope, I'm going to keep swinging at everything that comes my way. He put together some better at-bats on Sunday, obviously leads to the 4 for 4, and gives him some confidence heading back home for his home debut. And once those hits start falling for him, especially the ones that are 100 miles an hour instead of being right at people, they drop on the grass and helps the batting average a little bit. He's going to start to get going. Want to see him start to elevate the ball a little bit more. He hit a lot of stuff on the ground early, and he hit it hard, and that's fine. But with his power, once he starts to optimize that pull side in the air, we're going to see a very different Jack Caglione, the guy that was advertised when they called him up.
Yeah, his expected batting average is 343 with how hard he's hitting the ball. His expected slugging is 542 with how hard he's hitting the ball. So I'm fine. And actually, I was impressed with the fact that yesterday, not just that he had 4 hits, because that's obviously easy to be impressed with, but that he stayed with the way that he didn't get down on himself and like, well, now I got to change up a lot because these balls are not falling in. No, just go up there, hit the ball hard, man. You hit the ball hard, they're going to find grass. And they just happened to be clustered together on Sunday. If they had been intertwined over the previous 5 games, well, then, people are saying, yeah, he had a double, had a number of singles. They just happened to fall in all in one game. That's baseball. You're going to hit 150 miles an hour and it's going to find some sort of a hole somewhere. You're going to hit 110 and it's going to be right at somebody. And that's just baseball. And he's done that a couple times, hitting a couple that are 105 and 110 miles an hour that were outs, But he keeps doing that. His batting average is going to be closer to that expected batting average if he keeps hitting it as hard as he is right now. Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast. Joel, you're the man. Appreciate it, brother. Enjoy the baseball. Hopefully next week, hey, maybe we're talking about a 7-game winning streak and taking care of these damn Yankees and then the Memento A's?
The Sacramento / Vegas / Oakland A's, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Oaklamentagus A's? Sure, that's fine. We'll see what happens over that. Joel, you're the man. Appreciate it, brother.
Have a good one. Talk to you next week.
Absolutely. There's Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast. Great stuff from him, as always. Tomorrow night, Noah Cameron. Wednesday night, Chris Bubich. Thursday night, Cole Reagans against the Yankees with Max Fried going tomorrow night for New York. Schmidt on Wednesday. And then it's not Will Wade. I know that. I know it's not him. It's not a strong-ass pitcher.
It's a strong.
Yeah, Will Warren. Will
pitcher.
Warren. My name isn't Warren, so stop calling me Warren. His name isn't Warren? I thought his name was Warren.
Found your baseball.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Thank you to Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast. Talked a lot of baseball in the first hour. We talked about the House settlement with the NCAA, what it means moving forward for all these different schools in the previous hour. And Joel Penfield right there, One Royal Way podcast, joining us talking about some Kansas City Royals stuff. 913-912-4810. Jack Cameron's first week in Major League Baseball. He's batting .240. His expected batting average is .343. It's pretty good. It's pretty good expected batting average because he's hitting the ball so hard. Hard hit percentage is in the 99th percentile. Bat speed in the 99th percentile. Expected batting average is in the 100th percentile. Barrel percentage is in the 88th percentile. Squared up percentage is in the 90th percentile.
You sound like me
Jack
right
Caglione.
now. You sound like I'm rubbing off on you. What? What did I say?
So the first week for Jack Caglione, to me, there's nothing that I've seen that I'm surprised by because we know that he's going to swing at a lot of pitches. His K percentage is not terrible. It's 16%, so I mean, that's perfectly fine. His walk percentage is 0, so that certainly should be better. But I know that just hitting the ball hard is not a way to where you're like, oh, he's hitting the ball hard, so nothing else matters. The ball, him hitting it hard and it finding grass 4 times yesterday, I think is interesting and is substantial because the previous 5 games he was hitting it hard and it had only found grass twice. So it was like, man, at some point you're like, all right, he's hitting it hard, but like, I don't know, maybe if he took that pitch and swung at the next pitch, he would have hit it hard into the gap. Like, who knows? And so then you've got these hits that are finding green. And what Jack Caglione has done has swung at a lot of pitches and has hit the ball really hard. And that's what I expected Jack Caglione to do. And in his first 6 games, hitting a ball 110 miles an hour or harder for the Royals. Bobby Witt has 12 on the season. Salvi has 9. And Jack Caglione has moved into a tie for 3rd place with 4 with Vinny Pasquantino. In 6 games, Jack Caglione already is the 3rd most hits at 110 or harder.
By the way,
4 of his swings that he's connected with the ball in fair territory have gone 110.
What's the
or
outlier
harder.
there? Bobby Witt Jr., the size of Vinny, Salvi, and Jack
Makes sense,
somewhat
yeah.
makes sense. And you see Bobby and the fact that he can generate so much swing speed and power.
God, he's just so connected, and everything at the point of contact is just that energy. And his hands are so fat. Like,
I know it's about Jack, but really quickly, I love that Bobby Witt Jr. has turned it on once Jack got called up. It's like a little bit of, no, I'm still the guy. Like, I know everyone's talking about you, Jack, but I'm still Bobby Witt
you
Jr.
guys forget about Dre?
You forget about, don't forget about
How?
Dre.
My last season was number 2 in MVP.
You didn't forget about me, right, guys? The defense, too, a couple of
You forgot about Jay.
Spider-Man dives.
Yeah, dude, that's one of the best catches I've ever seen. And I don't think it's hyperbolic because, like, I know it's recency bias, but I don't know how often we see a player that is fully stretched out.
Yes.
As far as you can go. And as he is fully stretched out, as far as you could possibly stretch, toes are pointed out or straight down, hand is fully stretched out, glove is fully stretched out, and then the ball goes into the glove. Meaning he needed every single part of that, every single inch that his body has to reach that baseball, and how quickly he had to respond, how quickly he had to jump and get there, the reaction of the ball and springing into that athletic feat. It's one thing for an outfielder to sprint there, see the ball, and then make the dive, right? Because you've got a little bit of time to build up to get there. But you have to be that quick, that explosive, that dynamic of a player, and to get there and make that catch. It's one of the best catches I've ever seen. And then he did close to the same thing yesterday in the 9th inning that I think helped, may have saved the game.
Yeah.
It may have saved if that thing gets through with Estevez, then I'm not sure what happens after that. But may have saved the game, and maybe have saved a very long rain delay where the Royals then would have had to go back out there again instead of getting home from Chicago and enjoying a day off, what Denny Matthews would call a true day off. Today, in Denny Matthews' mind, is a true day off. Denny Matthews' version of a true day off is when you go to bed in your own bed, you wake up, you don't have a game, and then you go to bed in your own bed. It's the only true day off there is in baseball. This is a true day off for the Royals. There's no traveling. There's no, you didn't wake up in a hotel then you got a day off that day, but you didn't know. It's
you get to make coffee.
Right.
Get back in bed with a nice, good book.
Yeah, chill for a little bit. Just be at home, hanging out, relaxing. Maybe that helps them. I don't know.
Read
Maybe.
I mean,
about
when you think about it,
sabermetrics.
from spring training to postseason,
I'll be
Johnny
honest.
Damon mentioned it this weekend.
Yeah.
It's like 200 and I think he said 15 games in 230 days. Like,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah, and you get some days off, but some of those days off are on the road where
yeah,
you're in a hotel.
and like you're saying, this is the
Yeah.
only
This
real.
is one of the very few,
Yeah.
as Denny calls it, his definition of a real day off. You
How
go
would
to bed
Denny
in your
say
bed.
it, though?
He would say a real day off to me is, so if you go to bed in your own bed, you wake up the next day, you ain't got bleep to do all day. You can play with your ding-ding if you want. Do whatever you want all day. Doesn't matter. And then you go to bed in your own bed again, wake up, play ball. And that off day is brought to you by the parking spot. Easy to spot, easy to park, parking spot at KCI.
One of the best things about having the interns Carson and Jack back here is
Yeah.
this is their first time when they are both.
Oh, is that right?
They said it's a blue ribbon,
Thank you.
and I agree.
Appreciate it.
I've always
Appreciate
agreed. This is blue ribbon Danny Matthews
Thank you.
impersonation.
I appreciate
so.
that. It's the one thing.
Jesus.
It's the only party trick I have.
And Bill Walton,
It's
come
the
on.
one. A little bit. It's less cool today because we don't hear him as often anymore.
That's true.
He'd be so upset at the conference realignment because the Conference of Champions. Bill Walton, my mentor, is an amazing, amazing individual.
Yeah, you got a little Jerome Tang with the amazing there.
No, Jerome is down. Isn't it amazing what you can do? What you can do when you build it out of love and not hate? It's
$2 million.
amazing. It's amazing what you can do with PJ Haggerty and $2 million. It's amazing. Isn't it amazing? That's Jerome Tang. But Jack Caglione, 4 baseballs, 110 miles an hour or harder so far in his 6 games that he has played.
Strong.
He's a strong player. He is. He can wear a pair of pants.
Well, okay.
He can do that. And baseballs get jacked up when he hits them. So that is fun. I did appreciate, too, yesterday him saying he's more excited for tomorrow night, home opener. Yesterday he said Tuesday night because that would have been tomorrow night. But he's more excited for the home opener, or his home debut, I should say, against the Yankees than he was for his major league debut against the Cardinals. Because just being at Kauffman Stadium and the Yankees being in town and a bunch of family that's going to be there and friends, you got a little bit more time to plan that, right? It's not as quick and as fast as like, oh, wait, now you got to get to St. Louis. It's, all right, we got a week. His home debut is going to be on Tuesday against the Yankees, and one of the most coveted tickets that we'll see on a weeknight. It's going to be a sellout, right? Tomorrow night's going to be a sellout. Yankees, Jack, $1 dog night. Sellout.
All the Lakers and Cowboys fans are going to be there.
Right? That's a good point. And they're not playing in the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl or anything like that,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Are there Florida Panther bandwagon fans in the NHL? Nobody's a bandwagon Edmonton Oiler fan, are they?
I mean, I'm rooting for Florida because USA, baby.
I'm rooting for Edmonton.
Wow. Traitor. Nice job, Benedict Cumberbund.
I don't think that's what it is. I don't think that's not
What?
the saying. That's not the saying.
Is that not it?
Benedict Cumberbatch, and a Benedict Arnold too. But wouldn't it feel more authentic for Edmonton to win this rather than the people in Miami? Florida Panthers, yeah, let's go hockey.
No, because how cool is that the USA just wins
I
just
know.
because they don't even care?
I know.
The
that's
USA is like, hey, we don't even care about this. We'll beat your ass.
right, but I mean, it is like the Florida, like how many people around there care, whereas Edmonton, this is what they live for.
Yeah.
When's the last time Canada won a Stanley Cup? Was
And
it
America
90?
just lets them know.
1993, the
93?
Montreal Canadiens. Yep.
That's the whole
93.
point. America just says, hey, yeah, that's fine. You
We'll
care
take
about
your
the sport,
sport.
and we're just going to take it. Good luck.
We'll take your sport. Now, don't look at our rosters and where the players
No.
are from or anything like that. But
No.
we'll take
Just
the
look
sport
at
and
where the franchises are located. That's all.
It's called pay to play. This is the real pay to play, baby.
Yeah, well, that's
Maybe
fine.
mayay Canada should pay their players more. Can't afford
They
it.
just got to lower their taxes.
They can't
afford it.
Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying? I think they're fine. I think they're fine
I don't know, man.
in that aspect of it. But Yeah, I don't know if there are any bandwagon fans from there, but you're right. The Lakers fans and the Mavericks fans or Cowboys fans, I should say, are going to be there at the game on Tuesday night.
Not many bandwagon Mavs fans at this point.
That's true. That's a good point. They all jumped off the bandwagon if there were bandwagon Mavs fans. I can't imagine that. But Cowboys, yes, for that. And as people across the NFL would say, what about the bandwagon Chiefs fans? You know what I mean? All those Chiefs fans.
My Matt Castle Schurzy says otherwise, okay?
Well, the 15-year-old girls out there that are the bandwagon Chiefs fans, I don't think they're going to show up to the Yankees and Royals game tomorrow night.
Probably not.
I don't think they're going to be there. And by the way, some NFL news, speaking of that, Jermaine Pratt has been released by the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they were trying to trade him because this is the time when we're seeing players get released, and it's like, why didn't you just release them before? But I think they were trying to trade Jermaine Pratt, and nobody was going to want an aging linebacker in that contract, so they ultimately just release him. Jair Alexander was released by the Green Bay Packers. They were trying to trade him. And Jermaine Pratt puts on IG a picture of him and Trey Hendrickson. On IG. Why did he, of all the pictures he posted with a teardrop of no longer being a Bengal, it could have been any picture, right? It could have been him holding up the Lamar Hunt trophy in Kansas City. You know, he's probably got pictures of him holding that, right, of going to the Super Bowl. He's probably got pictures of different things. Why did he tweet out or IG a picture of him and Trey Hendrickson?
Him cussing out Osai on the way to the locker room after the championship game.
Why you hit the quarterback? But it's weird because some Bengals fans say that wasn't a penalty, but yet the Bengals players
knew it was
a penalty, and how stupid it was for them to do it. Why do you think he tweeted out a picture of him and Trey Hendrickson on the field at the same time? That's odd. I don't know. I feel like players really like playing in Cincinnati for the Bengals. It feels like a franchise that's really endearing themselves to future players, and they still don't have Shamar Stewart under contract. Did you see why they don't have him under contract yet? Is because they're trying to force into language, because they want to set the precedent with Shamar Stewart for future first-rounders, that anything that they would deem detrimental to the organization, to the franchise, would then void all guaranteed money the remaining years of his contract. He would be the first player that the Bengals have put that into a contract, and he's saying, zero chance I'm signing that. And so they're trying to set the precedent with him that, no, I mean, we're talking about anything that we deem, it could be ambiguous, anything that we deem as detrimental, you forfeit all of your guaranteed dollars the rest of your contract.
I can promise you the NFLPA is right behind Shamar, telling him, we will back you as long as you need. Do not sign that contract.
We'll give you a loan. We'll take care of it. We'll give you a loan because you're going to make a lot of money in the NFL.
Because if you do
even
this,
on your rookie
then
deal,
everyone's going to do it.
Yeah, we're not, you're not signing that thing. Do not sign that.
By the way, pretty cool here. Just saw this. It could have been my learn, but it's something else. Chris Conley retiring from the NFL and going to film school. Going to film school at his alma mater, Georgia.
That is not a surprise.
So
it's not a surprise because remember, this is how crazy the NFL is. Remember, Chris Conley coming out of college, the fact that he enjoyed filmmaking and did it at Georgia was viewed as a negative because he didn't love ball. He was spending his part-time not just all about football. He was making movies. He was doing a film with friends and other groups there at Georgia because that was his passion, was filmmaking. But he played football. So we can't take this guy. He doesn't love ball. You know what I mean? Well, hold on. This seems like a really well-rounded individual. Seems like a good dude, right? He does a lot of things charitable. He just enjoys making. Yeah, but he's making film, not watching film. That's an issue. So this guy's going to slide in the draft. We don't know if we can trust him. How many years in the NFL did Chris Conley play?
10.
10 years in the NFL. And a damn fine player, too. So he was really good. Wasn't
solid.
Randy Moss. But
he was a perfect Andy Reid guy. Like, Andy Reid will sacrifice you being both ways. Like, he will say, like, hey, this guy is an exceptional person. Yeah. And I value that a little higher. And then there's some instances where he's willing to take a chance on a player, too.
That guy for 10 years was the dirty work playing special teams and a four-phase special teamer for 10 years in the NFL. And whatever it be, fourth or fifth wide receiver, sometimes third, sometimes injuries move you up to number 1 or number 2, depending on that. But just out there playing and, I think maximizing probably his ability. So a good career for Chris Conley. And good for him to go back to film school and do what his real passion is. Now I wonder if film school's like, do we really want this guy? Because like in his part-time, is he like making film and movie, or is he a football guy?
He's probably great.
You know, I kind of feel like, do we even accept him? Because like he's all about football. He's a football guy.
How's it not used as a positive as far as watching film?
Well, he's making film. He's not watching it. So making and watching is totally different. You know what I mean? Plus, it's not just watching film. You got to know how to watch film. Caleb Williams spent this offseason learning how to watch film. There was that big, story on him, which is more of a it's more of an issue with the coaching staff, I think, than Caleb Williams, because when you get into the NFL, you should probably be able to teach your quarterback how to watch film, especially if you're like, well, this quarterback's got 7 plays. Like Alex Smith told the story. He's like, at Utah, we had like 7 plays, and I saw 3 defenses. And then I got to San Francisco, and nobody taught me how to watch film. I had no idea. I was wasting hours doing things that I'm not doing now, that later on in his career when he learned how to be efficient. And then guess what he did? He taught Mahomes that. I feel for Caleb Williams in that he had a coaching staff and that he didn't have a veteran around him to say, no, dude, you're wasting time. It's not that he wasn't watching film. He just was watching it wrong. I mean, in any profession, in radio, like the toughest thing for me, like over the years, what I have learned the most is how to prepare for a show. Like I would spend hours writing out a monologue. Like, this is my prep work. I'm writing out a monologue. Cool, 15 minutes into the show. Now what? You've spent hours on 15 minutes. Now what are you doing? Prepping is huge. Watching film and knowing how to do it is huge in the NFL. And it sucks that maybe that's an indication that Caleb Williams will be better this year if he's got Ben Johnson and more mentors around him of like, yeah, you're wasting time. You don't need to watch this, or this. Okay, so you're watching that. No, we've got all this cut up in this certain way. You know, whereas Mahomes didn't have to have those growing pains. He had Alex Smith to show him, this is what I've learned in all my years. This is efficient. This is how you do it. You're wasting time doing some of these things. Watch film this particular way. So, I mean, there's clearly value in that. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Jermaine Pratt and Jair Alexander, who were released by their respective teams today, being the Bengals and the Packers. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, wrapping up this hour. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer, KSHP 41 Sports Director, in the next hour. We'll get into a little bit more of the House settlement and college athletics' ever-changing landscape. I have not seen from Goff or Gene Taylor at KU or K-State, but Laird Beach at Mizzou put out a statement and or his assessment of whatever, written out. Not a surprise, but he's on record of saying they will use the max $20.5 million. I'm assuming KU and K-State will do the same, but haven't seen any statements or anything from them just yet. Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, hanging out with us here for the final hour on this Monday edition. It looks pretty outside, but I haven't been in since 7 o'clock this morning. Is it nice
Dude.
outside, Mick?
This day's so nice. It's helping a neighbor. It's helping a neighbor move. That's how nice it is.
This is a helping a neighbor move day?
This day's so nice. It's giving a friend a ride to the airport. That's how nice this day is.
This day's so nice that if you run out of gas, it's okay just to walk to the next gas station and get there. You don't need to call for help because you just get out and enjoy it.
Yeah, that too.
Sure? Is that over the line? Was that too far? Did I take it too
Oh,
far?
it's kind of personifying the day.
Yeah, I like yours better, Mick,
thank you.
personally.
Yeah, yours were better.
Yeah.
Mine seems to be an issue
Yeah.
that you
This
would,
day's
you would
so
have.
nice. It's writing thank you notes. Okay,
My goodness. Yeah.
for no reason.
This day is so nice that it's thanking its wife for writing all the thank you notes.
That's right.
I said thank you to you. By proxy, I am thanking everybody all at once. Work smarter, not harder. That's what I would say. You know? I mean, come on. You know? So.
My kid is doing thank you notes as we speak,
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
and I have not been a nice day about that, nor a nice dad about it. I was like
How
maybe
long
at
has he waited to
noon on
write-
Saturday. That's how nice of a day I was when it was storming here.
Yes. How
Pouring rain.
How long has he waited to do this? How long has he been told, "Hey, you need to get these thank you notes
The party was May 10th.
done"? Okay, roughly a month.
Yeah, party's May 10th.
I'll get around to it. Boy, he's going to be good in college. That
Well,
test.
and
That
he-
test is June 11th.
Problem
I'll
is,
get
he's
to
going
it.
to the college that you went to, which I'm not even sure that's a real college. Is that accredited? Do they give out like real diplomas, or they just kind of print those out
No,
on
it's
they draw 'em?
Monopoly type
Yeah,
no,
style.
like is that a real college?
No, they stay inside the lines when they. It's paint by
Okay.
number, but
Yeah.
they stay in. It's really good though.
And that degree works when you you put it into the degree machine when you're applying for jobs.
I'm
I
not
haven't
sure.
applied for one forever.
I was gonna say,
I imagine is that how it works.
I'm in radio. I'm not sure they cared. Like, yeah, but I've got my degree in broadcasting. Okay, cool.
You went to,
What do you sound like on the air? You suck. All right, but I've got my degree but I've got a brilliant personality. Remember that old commercial?
Who was it? Was it George O'Leary? The resume.
yes.
Do you have one of his resumes? It just
Said he served in the Air Force or the Navy or something like that, and that was pretty good. You know.
the old
was very
Chiefs head
smart.
coach, his son. Well,
Oh, it was Gans.
Frank Gans Jr. too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was
Yeah.
Gans that said that he
was in the
he was in the military.
I think George O'Leary was just like, I've coached here and worked here,
Yeah,
and
I
I
think
went
that's
to
what it
these schools.
was.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, Frank Gans was that he had served, and it's like, no, I actually did not serve. It's an odd thing to lie about. Not sure why you would do that.
I think.
So-
I mean, you would think of all the institutions out there, the U.S. military would,
Yeah.
keep record
Yeah.
of its people.
Because here's the thing: what I have found out, if you're going to try to lie about a certain profession,
Steal valor. Is that what it's
yeah,
Stolen
valor,
Stolen valor, yeah.
If you're going to try to lie about a certain profession, what I wouldn't do is lie about it. A profession where if I happen to run into somebody who's in that profession, when there's 17 different abbreviations and all of the different places you could have done in this group, like unless you are so well versed that you lived it, you are screwed.
It's like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places. When they're like, what battalion were you a part of? And he's, I was a part of, and he starts naming off random.
right.
In fairness, he did play at Navy.
Oh, did he?
Is that what it was?
Frank Gans played at Navy, and he coached for Air Force and Navy and Army. So in
I
fairness,
don't know, what was it? Was it that he lied on his resume
I think
about
he
serving,
said
or-
that he had seen battle,
Like
something
combat or
seen,
whatever?
combat.
well,
Yeah.
that Army Navy game may have been a
That was
battle.
it. That was
may have
battle.
been a battle. So
You have a term for this word. I have my own. Okay, gosh.
Do you understand the strategy of deploying different people in certain areas to try to gain ground on the enemy?
wow,
You
his
understand
na-
what it is? The logistics of this whole wars. You understand that wars are fought with logistics.
Okay.
They're not fought with men. They're fought with logistics. The logistics of us moving from
Say
our
his
own
middle-
money
People, I'm
to
great with
scoring.
people.
say his middle
I'm a
name.
people person.
Oh man,
Yeah, that's the wildest middle name I've seen.
Van Rensselaer. Now, is that Frank Gans the dad or the?
This is the dad. You went with the son?
Was it?
I don't know if it was
Frank
the
Gans
dad
Jr.?
or
I
the
can't
son. I
remember.
don't, his Wikipedia would probably say that if you're
Yeah.
on Frank Gann's Wikipedia page, it might say something about
Stolen valor.
or lying, whatever. I'm not sure.
And then, what's his name? Was the old NBC News anchor, Brian Fellows, Brian Williams.
Oh yeah. That's right. He was
Not the
every-
Safari Planet.
He had gone everywhere.
Yes.
He had all these different, stories and trips
was
and
there.
everything. I was there.
Listen, okay, some people
I
were
think he
there.
said he got shot at or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he said he was there, and they're like, no, he wasn't.
And then you
He
had,
was- I
you had
mean,
people like superimposing
embedded.
him in the background of some. It's like him sitting at a chair, and they superimpose him like in the background of the corner of the street. That's there's
Poorly
this
done
ward.
Photoshop.
This ward's like, oh yeah, he's right here. He was not lying. There he is, sitting right there on the corner. He's covering it. Look at the microphone in his hand. You found it, Sterling?
No,
Okay, great.
I
All right, so we're probably wrong. I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't really know exactly what you guys were talking about because that was
Great.
well before my time. But I just
Well, yeah,
thought
but
he
see,
did.
you weren't supposed to know
coach.
what we were talking about because you were supposed to be looking at his Wikipedia page. To see
I
if
did.
that
I
was
didn't
right.
say it in his Wikipedia page though. So
Okay, well, then it's probably not him. I don't know. We know George O'Leary had that happen. If it's not him, then I apologize. If it is, then our statements are previously allowed. If they're not, we will redact them. Okay, we will strike those from the
is
record.
that how that works allegedly? Speaking of course.
Yeah, we can strike it from the record, and the jury will not give any. Will pay no attention to the commentary that was given with that. Mick Shaver is hanging out with us. Mick, how do you assess Jack's first week in the big leagues? Jack Caglione. He'll be making his home debut tomorrow against the Yanks.
Lucky
6
hit.
games.
Got 4 hits yesterday.
4 hits. He's got
Like,
6
I wouldn't
hits.
have had him back in the lineup. I would have been packing.
Maybe a trip to
sending him
AAA.
Omaha.
Maybe a trip to AAA. Like if he only
No.
had 2 hits, you know what I mean? But he has a 4-hit game. He's got one of those early in his career. 6 games. One of those already a 4-hit game. So how do you? What did you? If you learned anything, you still the same optimism and excitement around Jack?
I can't believe your stat about hard hit balls or balls over
Already?
110. First of all, I would have guessed Bobby would have 50 by now.
Me too.
110? I feel like
110
every
mile an hour.
series, at least, or every game almost, I see
got one.
him hitting. Yeah, it was 111 off the bat.
Yeah.
There was one hopper to the shortstop or whatever. I can't believe he's only at 12. And then it's just hilarious that already is
Jack's
Cags
third most on the team
tied for third.
with a Benny.
Kidding me?
That's,
But he fit in really well. Those first 5 games with the Royals are like, okay, the balls we hit the hardest are going to be outs, basically.
hitting it right at people.
He hit
It's
it
dumb.
right at people. And then, like, 2 of his softer hits were the hits going in, right?
That's right.
And so, yeah, I mean, he hasn't looked overmatched. It really is that one. It was the one game he had 3 of those strikeouts.
Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the walks. I always the first few games I thought, okay, almost like he kind of heard the noise about swinging at too many pitches, and he got behind in counts too much, which is the biggest thing at this level. I mean, get yourself in a predictable, hittable count, then you'll be a lot better. So he was falling down 0-2 and 1-2 in a lot of those counts. I thought that hurt him a lot, but I think he's just fine. Won't be overmatched. Hit him 3rd. Hit him 4th, whatever.
That's fine. Hit him
I'm done with
5th.
6th.
Honestly, hit him 5th. Because before yesterday,
Ahead of Salvi?
so, yeah. So going into yesterday's game, I looked it up because I was like, man, he's been batting leadoff a decent amount of times. Going into Sunday's game, he had 20 at bats.
Yeah.
10 of those he was
Yeah.
leading off an inning.
Yes.
Not great.
10
And
of
every
his
time,
20 at bats.
every
were
game,
leading off.
Salvi's been in front of him, correct?
Yes.
Here's the deal about Salvi, and like you look at the metrics, and he's one of the most unluckiest players in baseball, right? With how hard he's been hitting the ball and the expected batting average and all that stuff. But with him, it's like if he's not hitting homers, I mean, a single, he's just kind of a roadblock out there on the base paths. You might need 3 more hits to get him home.
And he's just swinging. Like I tweeted out that what I had said a while, I tweeted out finally, but I'm like, I'm convinced that if Salvi just goes up there and doesn't swing, he's going to get 4
been his
pitches
whole
low and
career.
away. They'll throw him 4
That
pitches
genie
low and
ain't
away,
going
then they
back in
will
the
3
bottle there.
strikes.
That's been his whole career.
Hey now.
4 pitches outside of the strike zone before you throw him 3 strikes.
But usually that would translate to, I don't know, 10 or 12 homers right now. You would hope for that kind of swing
Right.
rate and what he's for a major league player,
hitting
and it's
hard.
not. He's gets 4 or 5 or whatever he's at.
He's in the 3rd percentile in sprint speed, so not last. There's
There you go.
slower. So yeah. If he played all of his games,
Giancarlo, is he slower?
if he played all of his games in Houston, he'd have 12.
And he can.
Yeah. Who's the guy with the broken leg that has to get to first on crutches? So he's a little slower than Salvi.
Slowest.
Just a little bit. Just
Players
touch. Touch.
Yes, they can.
Can they get a double play? Yes, they can.
They plenty yesterday. What, they have 5 or 6?
I'm afraid that Salvi's going to hit it really hard to right field, and
Mark-
they're going to throw him out first.
Yeah, it's gonna.
I-
Didn't it happen to Billy Butler?
Or did it almost happen to Billy Butler?
Maybe,
Like it was
yeah.
close. It was like a bang play at first on a throw from right field.
Guys, we have Martin Maldonado,
Oh, that makes sense.
38.
Another catcher.
Yeah. Rowdy Tellez, great name.
Oh, my God,
First
yeah,
baseman,
Rowdy.
big
Oh.
boy. Another catcher, Jacob Stallings, who used to be fast. Sam Huff, another catcher. Corey Seager, shortstop.
He's slower than Salvi?
Really?
Corey Seager is
No way.
sixth slowest in baseball.
Sam Huff, also defensive lineman. For
Are
the
they doing
Giants.
like is it home to first?
He's
Is
really
that the
slow
deal?
now.
Sprint speed, just sprint speed. Alejandro Kirk, the guy's like 5'8",
Yeah, for
but like
Toronto.
he's a sturdy man.
Yeah.
Jose
bowling
Trevino, Josh Naylor,
Oh yeah.
Tristan
newer.
Cassis from Boston,
Yep.
Wilmer Flores, Salvi coming in at 15.
There's
Wow.
no way those guys are slower than Salvi.
Agreed.
There's zero chance those guys are slower than Salvi.
Maybe it's the.
I don't buy it at all. I don't buy it at all. If that's what that's saying, then those underlying metrics are all BS. I don't believe any of them. And his expected batting average is exactly what he's batting right now for Salvi. If Seager and Wilmer Flores are slower than Salvi, I don't believe it. Not at all.
Jack Caglione, not the epitome of speed. He's about the slowest young guy, looks like, on this list.
Jack Aglione?
Small sample size.
Small
No,
sample
I don't
size. Maybe
believe
he
it
gets
either.
up there. Maybe he
I don't believe it
gets that thing going.
I don't believe it either. He's apparently
Faster
is
than
Jack
Vinny, though.
Aglione even? Oh, he's in the 11th percentile in
No,
sprint
not
speed.
great.
Jack Aglione? I don't believe it. Don't believe it at all. Mick Schaefer is hanging out with us. What we're going to have to believe is how this whole thing's going to happen in the NCAA with the House settlement. And I don't know. I haven't seen clarification. Ross Dellinger tweeted this out of saying that players that are signed between now and July 1st will count towards the clearinghouse for the salary cap and revenue sharing. But then I've also seen it tweeted out, perhaps it will. And I've also seen people tweet out, the next 3 weeks are going to be crazy because everybody's going to be trying to get as much money as they can on the books for these players before it counts against the cap on July 1st. So I have no idea. Either it's going to be silent because people are going to be assessing their budget and not going to do anything until July 1st, or it's going to be so crazy that people are going to be transferring right now to try to get as much money as they can out of a collective before it actually has to be accounted for in the $20.5 million for these schools. I don't know. But on July 1st, everything after that we know is going to the $20.5 million. And what these schools and what I wonder is how these individual teams are going to manage their money. Because for football, you have $20.5 million total. Let's say 75%. Let's take the 0.5 away. Let's use $15 million. So you've got $15 million to use from July 1st to July 1st. If you use all 15, like July 1st, then in December and January, when the transfer portal opens up, you ain't got no money anymore. So now you've got to allocate money for December or January when the
Or if
transfer
your
portal
guy's
opens
transferring
up.
out, do you
Or if
get
your
that
guy's
money back?
transferring out. Well, there will be contracts. So there are so there might be a 2-year deal to where they're essentially schools are owning the NIL rights of these kids. When they signed the contract for the schools, they're going to own the NIL rights, and in that will be verbiage that there are penalties for breaking the contract early, just as if you were a coach or anything like that. So you would have to owe money back, whatever it might be, if you break the contract.
But all the money will be coming from the school.
From the school, unless there's a legit, valid business purpose for an NIL. So one of the examples was Caitlin Clark State Farm. Legit NIL for Caitlin Clark when she was at Iowa for State Farm. She can get that money extra.
So-
it has nothing to do with Iowa.
NIL would be closer to its actual
Yep.
definition,
Yep.
right?
The NIL
farther away
clearinghouse,
from
yeah.
pay for play. School, we're doing pay for play over here. If you can find a true NIL,
Yep.
do a commercial for a car dealership, that kind of deal.
And you can still
Signing autographs,
Yes.
does that work too?
I'm not sure about that, probably, because that would be the fair market value of what. So the NIL Go is
But
what
no
it's called.
Tuscaloosa businessman is for a DN is like, here's $50,000 because you're good.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
No, because it's got to go through the NIL Go, which is the clearinghouse now for NIL, and it has to be proven that it is. It'll go if it's connected in any way, shape, or form with the university, a booster or once a part of a collective or something like that. There is this. I don't know what how they define rigorous, but there will be a rigorous vetting of it being fair market value for a, quote, valid business purpose, and they can approve or disapprove any deal. You get 2 chances to approve the deal. They will, if they disapprove it, they will give you tips on how to adjust it for it to be approved. And you can come back with them the second time and say, this is what we've done. Okay, great, it's approved. One of those might be, our algorithm says your fair market value is $50,000. This is for $75,000. We're not going to approve this. Come back, $50,000, we'll approve it. Okay, great, we redid this thing, and now we approve it. So you can still get NIL outside of what the salary cap is going to be.
Right.
It just has to go through a clearinghouse that the schools have created and used Deloitte for their clearinghouse for it to be used as an NIL. So
I can't
it's
wait
essentially
for,
pay for play.
I can't wait
And
for
then
us
under the table dealings.
to get to like, listen, Mizzou, it's like we do with the Chiefs. Mizzou's at 19.3 right now. They still need to sign a left tackle,
How are they gonna do
a
this?
point guard, and a right fielder, right?
That's right.
How are they going to get this done?
They need a point guard. They need a wing for the women's basketball program.
They've gone to the quarterback to ask him to restructure his contract.
There's a really good golfer that they need.
Yes,
They
exactly.
They need this guy.
Yes, they don't have it. Cross country. This is the best cross country athlete out there. And see, the thing is, though, like the more money you spend on football, the more likely you are going to get that money back. Any dollar spent on the Olympic sports is just a loss leader. Like you're just not ever going to recoup that money. But if you spend more money on, let's say, quarterback, and you get the best quarterback in the country, and he's winning games, well, those $2 million could result in ticket sales, beers, parking, all of that stuff. You spend $2 million on a golfer, you're not getting that money back because that's not going to be on TV.
Could. What if they go pro and they decide, hey, I appreciate you, Mizzou.
Well, you know
I'm
what?
going to give you all of my winnings when I win the Masters and the U.S. Open.
I doubt that's going
That'd
to
be a hell of a guy. That guy would be as nice as today is.
Yeah, and I
That's
learned,
what today is outside.
That
yeah.
guy. That's how
that
nice
guy.
that guy is.
and I learned from Enterprise that most athletes go pro in something besides sports.
I thought they pick you up.
They will, but who will pick you up as the next athlete?
Who leaves the light on for me, though?
Enterprise.
Super 8, I think, or Motel 6,
Yeah.
one of the two.
Yeah.
As someone
Enterprise.
who just rented a couple vehicles
Yeah.
from Enterprise,
They picked you up.
the one in Shawnee and in Galveston had each one had a couple workers there, employees.
Where'd they play?
Pretty jacked.
Yeah, where'd
I'm
they-
like, and each time I'm like, I bet you played somewhere.
Let
And
me
they
ask
went
you
pro
something.
in something
They
other
went
than
pro
sports.
in rental cars.
Let me ask you something, Hoss.
Well,
What'd you play in college? You went something. You went pro in
What'd you-
something
what'd you
besides
squat?
what you played.
what'd you call? Where's your broad jump, huh?
Hey,
Yeah.
what's your bench? Huh?
What's
How
your
much-
5-10-5? Okay, gotcha.
How much your bench?
No, I
huh?
can tell. I can tell, man.
Hey.
Yeah, no, I'll take the keys. Yeah.
Hey,
The Pacific out here. Okay, I'll get it.
Shot put? Yeah, that was shot put. Honey, shot put. I told you shot put.
D1 linebacker. I told you, kids.
Yeah, that's right. Although, by the way, speaking of that, now that we have all of this money that's going into the athletic department, that's going to have to be utilized for $20.5 million for these particular teams and programs. And you've got to deal with the coaches and things like that. And you've got to deal with how you're going to earn more revenue because now you're seeing the private equity firms are going to start investing in some of these athletic departments to give them an influx of cash up front. I would say the days of Jim Tyler Jefferson, outside linebacker in the 80s as your AD are probably over. I'd say probably your AD is probably going to be more of like somebody who's got a business background
Sure, yeah.
or handling finances that just, Jim Tyler Jefferson was an amazing linebacker and now he's here and he's going to be shaking hands
the
and
nerds
kissing
who
babies.
took over baseball, now they're taking over football, right?
right.
The Theo Epstein's, right?
Right. Yeah, and you're going to see now you have general managers being hired for each individual
Yeah,
sport,
they are.
like North Carolina football GM. You've got local schools hiring GMs for basketball, and I think your ADs are going to be.
KU get one?
Yes, it was.
Been out of pocket for a while.
Yeah, Jock
Jock
Vaughn.
Vaughn is the GM.
GM.
Is that what he's-
Yep. And then Missouri went with the old. They had the coach Tim. He was with them for a while.
Duncan.
Yes, that's exactly right. Thank you. Well done, Sterling.
Figured.
Thank you for helping out.
You said Tim.
Dynamite drop in.
Only Tim I know.
Yeah, I mean, think of another Tim. You can't.
Dynamite drop in, dude.
Timmy
Thank you for
Timmy
that.
Trumpets.
Yep.
That's Timmy.
Right.
Timmy Timerson.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Can't find it. Somebody will probably text in of who it is, but
It looks like here 7 days ago, Tim Fuller.
Tim Fuller. Thank you. Tim Fuller is the GM for Mizzou. He was with them for a while.
I like Tim Duncan
He
better.
played
Yeah, I do, too.
alongside Tim Duncan.
Wow.
Seriously?
Yep.
Is that real?
Began at Wake Forest.
Let's go.
That is amazing.
Well done.
Not bad.
That is unbelievable.
Well,
and
the
you knew that
90s
all along.
the
I knew I
90s
was close.
You knew that all along. I knew it. I knew it all along. Told
Wake
you.
Forest, their recruiting philosophy was like, we want height,
Yeah.
and we want length and all that. And, and guys named Tim.
Yeah.
Those three
Anybody.
things.
He must have
were
been a
like,
good dude because he was the team captain over Tim Duncan.
How about
year.
that? Yeah.
It's easy to get those guys confused.
Well, he's been a
That
recruiter.
was on me for
like his
confusing.
whole professional career has been a recruiter. Whether that's with like the grassroots with shoe brand, grassroots with the AAU circuit. He was working in that with shoe companies. Then he's been a recruiter for hire at a number of different schools. So now he's the GM for Mizzou. I just wonder, how's this going to work out with each AD in the programs within your athletic department that want more money? Like I gave the example earlier of Bruce Pearl and Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Those guys don't seem like they may get along very well. I have no idea. Maybe they're, a peas in a pod, kindred spirits. I'm not sure. But if Hugh Freeze wants this quarterback and Bruce Pearl's got this point guard that wants $500,000 more, and I'm going to need to dip into the coffers there, and Hugh Freeze is saying over my dead body, and Bruce Pearl's going, whoa, we're going to Final Fours here. Like we can play for a national championship. You can't even beat Alabama.
Yeah.
And hold on, Mr. AD, because Nate Oates Nate Oates is getting $7 million to spend every year, and I'm getting $4 million. And you want me to compete with Alabama? Yeah, but that means it's less money for the football program, and we're going to beat them in football. That doesn't do me any good. Maybe I go somewhere else. Maybe I take a job somewhere else. I know you're paying me nice money, but they're going to match that salary, and they're going to promise me $6 million for my basketball program, and you're only giving me $4 million for my basketball program. So now you can attract coaches by saying we're going to allocate a higher percentage for you in this program while matching what the salary is there, just so we can land this coach. So it's not just pencil whipping and just saying we're going to keep this coach, we're going to pay him the most money. Well, you'd also better take care of him percentage-wise of what he's getting to, his salary cap to use on players.
Think about the chips. Sorry, Mick. Think about the chips that Rick Pitino has at his disposal right now, recruiting against other basketball schools with a football
I
program.
think St. John's, 98% of all the money in revenue
going
sharing
right
will go
there.
to Rick Pitino.
Yes.
About rowing.
And also, guess
UConn.
what? You get to play in
UConn.
Madison Square Garden.
Well, I mean, St. John's doesn't even have a football program, whether it be Division
Yeah.
1, Division 2, Division 1 AA, FCS, or anything. It's just like St. John's basketball. I have no idea what else they do.
UConn's tough because you have women's and men's. where
Yes,
both
that's
are
right.
very.
Yep.
That's the whole deal. Like,
South Carolina's going to be interesting with
Carolina.
football.
Well, Vanderbilt's going to be interesting because baseball's huge in Nashville. Huge. So
And think about
would they rather win in base? Would they rather go to the College World Series or the NCAA tournament in basketball? What would they rather do?
would they rather compete in football in the SEC or lose in the first round to be the first one seed to ever not basically win a game in their regional, which was this year?
Well, 99. It was first time since
My
99.
bad, yeah,
Yeah,
99.
first time since 99.
First
for
time
the,
since two. Yeah.
Yeah, for the host, number 1 overall seed to not make it to the championship round of their own regional.
But they were salty at football. I mean, they're pretty damn
Right.
good.
Well, because they've got the
Pavia.
they spent money on Pavia
Yeah.
on the transfer quarterback.
OSU wrestling.
Oklahoma State wrestling, yeah.
And baseball. I mean, they beat Georgia.
Well, it's what I brought up earlier is that Mizzou has 20 Division I sports, KU has 18, K-State has 16.
20 million has always felt like a low number. First
Yeah.
blush, when I heard it, it's still, and it feels even lower now. We're mentioning all these sports, and
College football rosters have 100 versus
Yeah.
53.
Well, it's like there's no level playing field because, again, Kansas State has 16 Division I sports. Stanford has 36.
Yeah.
Stanford's got 20.5 million for 36
And they
sports.
produce the most Olympians.
Yeah,
because
right.
of that.
So they're going to spend money on that because it's valuable to them to say, well, look at all of these Olympic swimmers. We've got Olympic track. We got all these different Olympians, and we're not going to recoup that value because that's not bringing in money in revenue sharing or TV deals. We're not getting tickets sold, right? We're not getting gate or beer sales or parking for the swimming and diving team, but we are with Stanford football. And we will if Stanford basketball is a number 1 seed. I bet we're selling out the arena every night. So we're getting that money back there. But they got 36 Division I programs to deal with, and K-State's got 16. They've got an advantage there already. K-State does from that standpoint.
Most schools historically are either weighted one side or the other, men's basketball or football.
Mm-hmm.
There's a handful out there who historically have been really good at Michigan, right, or Florida.
an Oklahoma,
Missouri. I see what
Missouri.
you're saying.
Yeah, I was
for
getting
sure.
there.
Yeah,
I was
thank
getting
you.
there.
I knew
within
you'd get
my,
there eventually.
the next 50 or 100
Yeah,
schools. in the same.
I
Yes,
just
yes.
skipped ahead.
Yeah, skipped ahead.
Skipped ahead. You know?
So I wonder what that dynamic is going to be like as opposed to a Kansas with basketball or a Nebraska with football only between those two. Now I know those schools have other sports, more Olympic sports. I mean, volleyball for Nebraska, but the two big ones, it's usually one or the other at both those universities, and sometimes they switch. Oklahoma State was basketball forever, and then they switched to football, and now I don't know what they are.
Wrestling.
Wrestling, I told you. Golf.
Obviously.
Of the two, I'm saying, yeah.
It's
So
wrestling.
and national champs at golf.
Ross
That's what I
Dellinger,
said. I was
Ross
on
Dellinger
that.
had the story that Greg Sankey in the SEC a couple of weeks ago was trying to pass a rule that there was a minimum percentage that the teams in the SEC would be allowed to spend on football. So a minimum percentage. And the one team that said,
Salary floor.
no, you're not going to tell us that we can only spend this on basketball. Kentucky. And Greg Sankey was like, okay, fine, you guys figure it out then. They were trying to institute minimum 75% will go to football. And Kentucky's like, no, because we're going to spend more money on basketball than some of these other schools. And we're not going to be obligated to spend money on football when we're a basketball school. Don't worry, we'll spend money on football. You don't care if we suck or not. You've got your Alabamas and your Texas and Oklahomas. You brought them in anyway. Missouri's, I skipped ahead. And LSU and some of those. But you've got us in basketball. We're going to spend money. So it is interesting that Greg Sankey was trying to implement a minimum percentage standard that must be spent on football in the SEC. And one school in particular was like, no, we're going to spend money on. And I also wonder if,
Is Sankey?
if LSU
Is he going to stop till he is like president and just runs the world?
Probably.
And
I don't
basically,
know. I don't know. He's
He's got to take advantage of the SEC's reputation while he can, because they only have a basketball championship this year, but he's trying to rewrite the rules in every sport.
Why not? Go and get this
Baseball.
thing.
Now that
have
everyone
a
can pay
dud, too.
people and not just the Southern schools.
Well, you
it's
know
kinda
why?
Evened out.
But you know why, Dylan?
I know
Because
it's
it
coming.
just
we know.
means more.
It just
means more.
But I do think what we've brought back, and this is an unintended consequence, folks.
Sexy?
Well, yeah, JT brought sexy back a while, but now with sexy already coming back, the next thing we wanted to get to was under the table dealings for some of these recruits, because you didn't have to go under the table to pay PJ Haggerty $2 million. Yeah, it's $2 million. We know what you're getting, and $500,000 in incentives. Now, not saying Kansas State, but it's like, well, we've got our salary cap, and maybe we funnel this money through some churches.
Yeah, exactly. If
For
there's
Cam
a cap,
Newton.
there's going to be under the table.
So-
The cap used to be zero.
Yeah.
And
So
there was
now,
under the table.
so now we actually
Even with
don't
20,
know
it's
how
gonna
much
be-
this player is getting to go to that school. We know it's publicly presented how much money that player is getting, but they might be getting some other things under the table that they weren't getting before. So we brought that back. So sexy and under the table dealings. We brought it all back. I appreciated the sexy part of it. Some players will appreciate the under the table dealings. We'll find out. We'll do Learn Funniest Best coming up next. Shea, for hanging out with us here on this Monday edition. We got some Learn Funniest Best coming up in this segment. Will we learn from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, and best from the weekend? We present that to you as we go around the room. What I learned this weekend is that Tyler Anderson was tipping his pitches, but Tyler Anderson wasn't actually tipping his pitches. It was the catcher that was tipping his pitches. And so we saw, I don't know if you guys saw the interaction before the game between the Angels and Red Sox. There was a big argument that was taking place with Tyler Anderson and a couple of the assistant coaches for the Red Sox. And then Angels pitching coach comes over and starts yelling at one of the Red Sox. And John Boy Media does a great job of lip reading and trying to figure out what's going on. And his latest was, because this was a huge back and forth before the game, pitching coach Tyler Anderson, first base coach for the Red Sox, and the pitching coach for the Angels comes over and says, you ruined his game, or you cost him his game, something along those lines with Tyler Anderson. And what he eventually figured out was Tyler Anderson was not tipping pitches on fastball or changeup. The catcher was. So when it was a fastball, the catcher would be more in a crouched stance with his glove sort of over the plate and his feet closer together when it was a fastball. And when it was a fastball, the first base coach would stand still. A changeup, the catcher would have his right foot almost in the left-handed batter's box and his glove out, and it would be sitting more upright. And as the catcher did that, the first base coach would start walking towards home plate so that the right-handed batter could see out of the corner of his eye the first base coach is walking to me. And so that's how they eventually got to Tyler Anderson, and they started teeing off on him in one inning. The Red Sox did. And it resulted in this huge argument before the game, and that's why the pitching coach was to the first, you cost him his game. But how about your catcher doesn't do that? Like, if it's that easy to just wear your catcher setting up on a fastball or a changeup.
Who was the pitching coach pointing at?
The first base coach, saying that you cost him his game.
But why was there an argument beforehand?
No, it was before a game the next day. So it was after Tyler Anderson pitched.
But why was there an argument to begin with? But because of this?
Yeah, because of this. Because Tyler Anderson was pissed. They figured out what happened. They figured out that there was a pitch tipping going on. They figured out that the right-handed hitters could see the first base coach.
So they saw the first base coach react.
So they put it together after the game, and then before the game, Tyler Anderson decided he was going to go have some words with the first base coach, and then they start going back and forth. Then the Angels coaches come over and was like, don't talk to a bleeping player. You don't talk to my bleeping player. And then it goes back and forth and everything. So Tyler Anderson got hit around for tipping pitches, but his catcher was tipping pitches in how he was setting up for a fastball or a changeup. And as simple as the first base coach walking or standing still was fastball or changeup. It's fascinating how some of these things can happen, especially in the pitch-com era, just how guys set up. What'd you learn from the weekend, Sterling?
That Pete Dye is a diabolical man. Went and played those courses in French Lick, the Donald Ross course, the Pete Dye course. Donald Ross was like, hey, so we're going to make it really hard, and the green's going to be tough, but it'll be fair. It'll be fair. Pete Dye is like, hey, life isn't fair, so why should golf be fair? I'm pretty sure it's an actual plaque with his words outside of the course, and he's correct. What an absolute difficult course. Really glad I did it. So much fun, but that was hands down the toughest course I've played in my life.
Did you walk it?
It's no. You do have a four caddy with you, and you see why, because half the shots you would have no idea where you're going unless you had someone tell you. And again, we're not great. We're solid players. So he tells you where to go, right? And you're like, I'm trying, Randy. Okay, Randy, I'm trying to hit it. I see where you said. He's like, I told you can't go left because there's that canyon down there. And I'm like, Randy,
he sounds like a guy that only turns left in a car.
I'm like, Randy, I know, man. It went there.
I told you there's
you can find your ball down there. I found it. You're in a canyon. You're in a grass canyon. That's hole 18. But so I found out that Pete Dye, and then you're like, oh, so that's the hard part, just your tee shots? No. Wait till you get to the greens, and you're like, okay, let's have some fun up here. So Pete Dye, if no one's played it, I recommend it. If you have played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Pete Dye course at French Lick was the hardest course of my life. So I learned that he really is a diabolical man.
Yeah, that course I've done a couple of remotes from. I've never played, but I don't know that I would enjoy playing it. Like, it just doesn't look like.
Do
it's
they
a
have
bunch of fun.
pros that play there?
Yeah, this is the. It has been the final for the Corn Ferry Tour as far as like the last round and stuff. We were talking to Harry Higgs about it, and he just basically, when I told him I was playing, he laughed and was like, "Have fun."
Yeah.
So you want to pick up that name there? You just have to-
I mean, I went
you know
to
when I
name.
told
You
Harry
went to high
Higgs
school
there,
with
you
I went
know,
to high
Harry,
school.
Harry Higgs,
We
when I
literally
told
interviewed
him,
him for this show. It was for this show, Jason.
what'd you learn from the weekend, Mick?
It's a pitcher for the Diamondbacks, Brandon Fat,
Yes.
P-F-A-A,
Fought. Yeah.
D-T. His outing was
Yeah, no, he was on my funniest. He was on my
6 hits, 8 runs, 8 earned.
yeah, fantasy team.
No outs.
Yeah, it was rough.
People were calling it the first yes hitter in baseball history. He threw the first yes hitter in baseball history.
That's pretty awesome.
So I learned that term. Not a no hitter, but a yes hitter when you don't get an out.
Yeah.
They're just all yeses, basically.
Yeah.
Who's on your team?
He's on my.
They got rid of him.
That was rough. Very deep league. He's typically pretty good. That was not one of those nights. So yeah, rough. I know. But yeah, Brandon fought and didn't. He got beat up.
Fight.
He shouldn't have showed up for that fight. Dylan, what'd you learn?
I learned that yesterday Coco Gauff was the first in the history of women's tennis to win her first 2 majors after being down a full set, and she was down the first set yesterday against the number 1 I'm not even going to attempt it. The number 1 player in the world. So she was able to win the Roland Garros yesterday and complete history. So she's the first in women's tennis history to win her first 2 majors after down a set.
That's awesome. Yeah. Americans can't win the French Open. And it was a good weekend. All right, funniest we had to use, Sterling. Funniest from the weekend.
So we were all at dinner, this nice steakhouse, and the waitress was bringing over the check and starting to pour some water before we're heading out. And my boy had no idea that she was there because he was in the middle of doing a Harry Carey impersonation the entire time, talking about Moises Alou and just doing, I can't do a very good, hey, everybody, doing a Moises Alou and
believe you.
a Harry Carey impersonation. Thank you for believing I can't do a good one. I appreciate it. That's why I don't
I'm
do
backing you up.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
saying
you. I
yes,
appreciate
yes,
the support.
yes.
But he does a phenomenal one. Very good. And we asked him afterwards if he had any idea that, like, she was there, and he had no idea because when he does it, his eyes are kind of closed doing the Harry Carey. And she just looked completely befuddled and confused, didn't know what to do. She's trying to hand him his check as he's talking about Moises Alou in that voice. It was just it was an all-timer. You had to be there for it to be that funny.
Laughing on
that
the
seems
inside.
like- no. I'm picturing myself being there and laughing.
I was, truthfully, that was one of the funniest
Yeah.
times. I couldn't stop laughing for a good half hour.
But it is your funniest one of the week. It's not our funniest.
It's not
one
your
of the week.
funniest,
Yeah,
but
it's
for
your
me,
funniest.
if you were
Yeah.
there, the 7 guys
Yeah.
besides me that were there, they're laughing. And that lady,
bet.
I feel bad for her
She's
because,
fine. She forgot it as soon as you guys left.
yeah, probably.
She moved on with her day.
Probably.
Funniest for you, Mick?
Funniest for me is kind of a learn, but it turned into a funny. There's an actor named Noel Guglielmi. He's played a character named Hector in 11 different movies. In Price of Glory, he was Hector. In Ghetto Rhapsody, he was Hector. In The Animal, he was gang leader Hector. In Barrio Murders, he was Hector. Fast and Furious, Hector. Training Day, seen Hector. The gangster hit Hector. Masked and Anonymous, Inmate Hector. Malibu's Most Wanted Hector. Old school Hector. Double Blade.
Hector?
No, Tom.
Oh,
no,
damn
yeah,
it.
he's Hector.
That
Yeah, he's
would be
Hector
awesome.
in
Are
that.
they
Yeah.
all spelled the same way?
They are the normal
there
way of
another
spelling Hector. He's done a lot of movies. It's not those aren't his only 11 movies, but in 11 of them, they're like, you look like that.
I feel like he's been typecast. I feel like it's tough to get away from that typecast.
Or
of
they just
Hector.
didn't have a
Maybe
name
it's,
for the
it's
character.
his name cast. Maybe he's totally different people in all these. Maybe he's
They didn't have a
loving
name
and
for the
caring
character.
Hector.
It's
Yes.
his go-to every time.
Yes.
Like whenever someone was like, "Oh, I wanted to be named Nick or
Hector.
something."
It's like
Hector
the
the
movie
accountant.
Split.
He's Hector the
Yeah.
gang leader,
Yeah.
Hector the accountant, Hector the cop,
with
Hector the
11
politician.
personalities.
Funniest for you, Dylan, from the weekend?
It wasn't from this weekend, but unfortunately, Jair Alexander, he is no longer with the Packers, so I was able to
I'll
dig
accept
up
it.
the funniest Packer moment for Jair Alexander.
So were you supposed to be a captain? Because the team announces the 3 game captains, and you were the 4th, and you called a toss. What happened there?
Oh, yeah, I mean, It's only suiting, you know. I don't think Coach knew I was from Charlotte, you know.
So you just did that on your own?
I mean, you know, it was like the guys backed me up, you know. So they knew I was from here.
Did you realize you almost made a big mistake on the call, though?
What'd I do?
Well, you said we want to go on defense.
Yeah.
Which, in theory, they could have said, then you're electing to kick off, which you would have lost the opportunity then to receive in the second half.
Yeah, no, I told them that I said I want our defense to be out there, and they all looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, I mean, it's pretty simple what I said. Like, I want the defense to be out there. They like, you mean defer? I'm like, yeah, I guess.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah, he did.
The mic was on.
Oh, it was? Yeah,
We heard you.
Oh, really? Nah, he was just like, defer? I was like, yeah. Everybody was like, yeah. Everybody was laughing. I'm like, what y'all laughing at? Like, it's pretty obvious what I'm asking for.
So did anyone say anything to you when you got back to the sideline?
No.
Why would they?
Because you walked out there not being a captain and decided to call the coin flip and almost chose. We want our defense to be out there. So do you want to defer? Yeah, sure, whatever. We'll just go with whatever. It's obvious what I want. I want our defense out there. I want to have us kicking. It's pretty obvious what I want. Yeah, but you got to actually defer, right? If you choose defense, then they get to choose
both times. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he was subsequently suspended by the team for one game after that. Yeah. So Jair, teammates had his back, not the team.
Why would you suspend him? Coach just didn't know he was from Carolina, so that doesn't seem like that's a suspendable offense. You know, coach needs to know about their players more.
Players had his back.
The funniest for me, I had a couple smaller funniers or smaller funniest. Nico Horner for the Cubs in the middle of the game in the fifth inning, he gets called for strike 3. It was a ball, and he just simply turns around and you can hear it on the audio. He looks at the umpire and he goes, "You're having a really bad day." And the umpire tosses him, and he's like, "What? How did I?" And then Craig Counsell for the Cubs comes out, and he goes, "All I said was that he's having a really bad day. That's all I said." And Craig Counsell's like, "You can't throw him out." What did you think was going to happen? It turned around arguing balls and strikes. "You're having a really bad day, sir." And he gets tossed. And the other one was college baseball fans arguing over the weekend for something. I don't even care what they were arguing about, except for this interaction. Somebody replies, "You're an idiot, Y-O-U''re, an idiot, correct, right?" And then somebody replies and said, "You know what the most shocking thing of your post is that you used Y-O-U-R-E. They replied and said, "Oh, sorry, typo, jail me. You're still an idiot, Y-O-U-R."
Oh.
They were like, they couldn't even figure out themselves that they got it right. And then somebody was complimenting them. And they were like, "Oh, whatever. You're sorry, I got it wrong. Jail me. Let me do it wrong." It's just perfect Twitter interaction for getting it wrong. Getting it right and then changing it to wrong. Best, we'll start with you, Mick.
The best for me, we're on family vacation.
Yeah.
That's it. No,
So sure it was your best. I doubt it, but we'll go with that. Dylan, your best?
Best was Cags getting a 4 for 4 day after struggling. So nice to come home on a good note.
Yep. My best was the Kansas City side winning the state championship. It was Blue Springs South versus Staley.
It was.
Even though Blue Springs South won, still nice for the Kansas City side to win, and Platte County.
Staley was about 80% of the way there.
6-0. And they gave up an 8-run inning. That's rough. And Platte County getting the win as well. So
They
congratulations.
boat raced and they run ruled them. Yeah.
Yeah, they a walk-off run rule.
Platte
I've never
County,
seen that before.
won football and baseball this year.
It's pretty good, but sliced bread wasn't invented there, though, so that's a problem. Sterling, best for you?
Harpo's Cup. You all doubted me.
I didn't doubt
you. all
I was out.
doubted me.
what's
The
happening?
intern
Yeah,
said,
Yeah.
guess what? Maybe a point. Maybe 1.5. 3.5 points. Took home the MVP trophy. I finally did it.
Oh, God.
I did it, Mick.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's really not a big deal. I know.
So-
I know.
First
really,
major.
Really small. It's my first major.
Yeah.
What's the Harpo's Cup?
Took it home. Oh, it's very esteemed, Mick. It's a very esteemed.
The people that care about that
golf
being his best
tournament.
are also the ones that laughed at the previous story.
That's why the U.S.
Same
Open
group.
is this week and not last week.
Yeah, this is the they say the U.S. Open is is one of the 4, but
So
this should
is
be
golf.
the 5th.
Then I take it.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is golf.
It's
yeah.
his guy's
Ryder
golf
Cup
trip.
style.
He does golf trips with his friends.
Oh, yeah, just weekly though.
Have you heard about this? Yeah, once a week. Tops. Tops.
We were talking when you were gone. How many you guys? 10 of you go. What have you? How many?
8 of us.
8 of us. Are the other 7? Are they like you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
They're cooler.
Thank God.
Way better. Way better.
And we have, one of the greatest horse rivalries that we ever saw with Affirmed and Alydar.
Nobody cares.
People
Nobody
do care,
cares.
actually. You can't say nobody cares. People care.
Nobody cares.
There are people that care. Nobody cares about watching NBC.
Compared to
on
the
Sat-
Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
when they don't
well,
race
because
them all.
Sovereignty
'Cause he
did not
didn't
race in the
do-
Preakness. He
And
didn't race-
did journalism
Journalism won the Preakness. So journalism finished second to Sovereignty in the Derby, won the Preakness, then finished second to Sovereignty in the Belmont. And Affirmed won the Triple Crown, and Alydar finished second in all three
What are we
races.
affirming?
I'm ready to hear more of your bro golf stories after that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually,
That's all of them.
I'd
That's all
rather
of them.
I'd rather listen to those horse talk than golfers.